across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good morning. Welcome to the show. It's almost 3 minutes past 10 o'clock. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense, and whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or on your connected device, thank you very much indeed for joining us. As always, lots to talk about. If you do miss anything on the show, there you can go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. We made it really easy for you to find by calling it that, and you can hit subscribe so you never have to miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, of course, we're going to be talking about Donald Trump and that extraordinary speech at the United Nations yesterday. Supposed to speak for 15 minutes. Something went a bit wrong with the teleprompter. Maybe they were just trying to get him off the stage because he ended up speaking for an entire hour. Wow. He covered a lot of ground. He told the United Nations that European countries were going to hell because of unchecked immigration. He also told them it was time to end the failed experiment of open borders. He took a swipe at the net zero push, certainly a big one under this government, and the last accusing the British government of wasting Britain's tremendous North Sea oil and slamming the construction of windmills and solar panels for, he said, ruining that beautiful Scottish and English countryside. Also, crucially, in what appears to be a change of tack in comments later on, asked questions by the media, Donald Trump said NATO should shoot down Russian fighter jets that intrude on NATO airspace. It seems to mark a hardening of tone towards Moscow and frustration over his stalled attempt to end the war in Ukraine. He was certainly very, very clear that Ukraine should try to get all of their land back. Complete change of tack from basically give away Crimea, give away the Donbass, which is where we were about a month ago. We'll talk about that. Plus, Keir Starmer's one-in, one-out migrant deal was dealt a fresh blow yesterday. Of course it was, after the Court of Appeal upheld the block on the return of an Eritrean migrant who claimed that he was, of course he did, that he was a victim of modern slavery. He didn't remember until, an interview after he'd spoken to some lawyers. Didn't remember when he first arrived here that he was a victim of modern slavery. Easy thing to forget, as we all know. But he says he needs more time to make his claim. But lawyers for the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, have warned that the temporary block on the Eritrean deportation was causing real damage to the public interest. We have, so far in the one-in, one-out deal, had 31,000 people in this year, and 3 people have left. We haven't heard anything yet about the people that France were delivering to us. We were told over the weekend. Who knows who they are? Who knows how vetted they are? Apparently we weren't allowed to know anything about them before they arrived. But I'm sure we'd like to know eventually. But, who knows? Maybe we may find out as and when they commit crimes and are committed and probably, let's face it, not sent to jail and not deported, because that is the country we live in right now. We live in mad times. Question I want to ask you specifically, but as you know, you can always get in touch about anything you want to talk about, but in particular about Donald Trump's speech to the UN, telling European countries they are going to hell because of uncontrolled, unchecked immigration and also net zero policies. What's your reaction? Because, let's face it, he's right on both counts, isn't he? But should we be taking lessons from him? Well, yeah, he's drill baby drill, isn't he? The American economy is booming compared to ours. Energy prices are absolutely a fraction of ours. And of course, he has managed to completely seal the Mexican border, plus mass deportations of illegal migrants. Maybe the European leaders should stop wagging their fingers at Donald Trump and try copying him. I'd love to hear your thoughts though. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate altogether now. And text costs one. That would standard network rate message. Always got it right. Anyway, lots to talk about. And joining me for all the chat is always on a Wednesday, former Conservative Government Advisor Claire Pearsall. Morning to you.
Morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. That UN speech, goodness me.
Yeah.
Those interminable press conferences he does, and those huddles, sprees, I think they're called in America. He does a lot of those. But he was only supposed to speak 15 minutes. He decided, I've got to go as long as I want. What are you going to do about it? They're not going to do like the red light, go boop, boop. As someone who's hosted a lot of conferences over the years, there's a little sideline in jobs, and you're told, we need this to finish at this, and this person's been allotted it. People get 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And you think, I can see you've got another 5 pages of your speech. You're already on 15. And it's like, I'm going to need you to hurry up. You practice your speech beforehand. You can literally put it into Google, and it will tell you how long it will take to read that speech. So we obviously just went off and riffed. But, let's play a couple of clips of what you had to say in a few minutes, but your general overall reaction to what he had to say.
I mean, it was quite something. He doesn't like the UN. Donald Trump doesn't like the UN. I mean, that's blatantly obvious. And he started out with the broken escalator problem, the broken teleprompter problem. So he decided that he had the floor and he would take his full allotted time and some. He was quite scathing to Europe, to the UK, to the London mayor in particular. And I listened to this. It was 50-something minutes of my life that I'll never get back. But it is quite interesting, the way that he will go about his attack. I do find this really, really interesting.
Few home truths
in his crosshairs.
Yeah, I mean, Sadiq Khan, we'll play a clip of that as well. But let's listen to actually what Donald Trump actually had to say to basically sort of quite shell-shocked members of the United Nations.
When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did. They repaid kindness with crime. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. Any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done, and it's what it's all about.
I mean, again, I don't think there's much to argue about there. This is what you had to say about Sadiq Khan, the London mayor.
And I have to say, I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained.
I mean, he kind of was riffing all over the place there. I do wish he'd stop talking about Sadiq Khan, because I do think he just encourages him. This is like such a little personal battle. And I'm sorry, I've got a lot of criticisms of Sadiq Khan, particularly on, I mean, you know, this blatant sort of, you know, anti-white sort of agenda, this whole sort of, diversity. I don't understand why this is such an obsession of people. He doesn't decide who lives here. He doesn't decide what the laws are here. He is in charge of policing. He is not trying to bring in Sharia law. Okay, he said now they want to go to Sharia law. Like, there is an issue, though. It is a fair point to make that there is an issue where we do have Sharia courts across this country. We do have a large Muslim population where a lot of people are choosing to go to this sort of rival judicial system. Now, it has no recognition in law. Yeah. Nevertheless, there is a lot of pressure. There'll be, for instance, on women when in cases of marital breakup or the like, where this is now basically seen as the alternative to the British judicial system. We have one country, we have one legal system. There should be no Sharia law in this country.
Well, no, there shouldn't, but I don't think it's as widespread as maybe we're being led to believe. Yes, it is prevalent in some areas, and that is a concern because it shouldn't take over the judicial system that we have in place in the United Kingdom. But I don't think it's quite the massive issue that everybody's getting upset about. And to be fair, if people want to go and solve problems with their community,
it's like going to your priest or your rabbi.
Absolutely.
Is that sort of idea?
It's that kind of idea. So I don't have an issue with that. I do if women are going to be treated as second-class citizens, and I have much more of an issue. Much more of an issue with that. But that's something that we need to be able to deal with, and we need to know where they are.
What you can't have is, as the government wants to bring in a definition of Islamophobia, where even criticising that makes you an Islamophobe and therefore a criminal, as opposed to I don't think Sharia law is a good thing. If you actually read some of the details of Sharia law, no, absolutely not.
No,
absolutely not acceptable in this country. Absolutely, people can have. You can absolutely. You can actually worship any god you choose. I worship none. I will support your right to do that. But the key thing is, it has to be within the law of this land.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the law of this land, you can either campaign to change it if you're a British citizen. If you're not a British citizen or you're a new arrival, I would say none of your sodding business. If you don't like the laws here, there's plenty of other places you can live where you can have those rules. I choose not to live in those countries because I don't like those rules. It's really, really very simple. But I think it's a very strange thing to move to a country, to bring your culture and your values to a country and then say, I would like the country adapt to my rules. No. That's literally not how life works. Apart from in Western countries where people get on their knees and say, oh, we need to be more diverse, we need to be more culturally aware, and we need to completely and utterly sort of basically, dissolve our own culture. You do have a lot of leaders in this country, largely white lefties.
Yes.
Largely people on the besides those sort of white hand-wringing, you know the women, you know who they are, and these sort of these patronising men and women on the left who sort of say basically they don't value our culture. They think that everything about the West is wrong, everything about our values is wrong, that our Christian Judeo-Christian culture is wrong, and our traditional value, our history, everything, that our law is wrong, and they are completely wrong, because these people wouldn't last 3 bloody seconds in a country that didn't have our values. 3 bloody seconds, they'd be off.
But they've never experienced being anywhere else.
I wonder sometimes, these people, have you never travelled ever anywhere around the world?
I think the answer is no, they haven't. They haven't been out of their comfort zone. They haven't been anywhere that could push those beliefs and to question them. And
it really is.
Weird.
You come back to this country and go, wow, we are so lucky. Well, still, look, there's so much to talk about, though. In relation to that Trump speech, the Home Office is losing its latest bid to send one in, one out Eritrean migrant back to France. We only managed 3 so far. Yeah. And also, of course, with this revelation, it came in the BBC yesterday, and the Sun's got it in their paper today as well. Asylum seekers basically being ferried hundreds of miles in taxis for health appointments can cost up to £300 each way. It's costing millions, but basically they have a right. If you're in this first hotel, you've got a GP, you have a right to basically see that GP or that consultant again. By the way, good luck getting a GP appointment or a consultant appointment. Apparently they're top of the list. Brilliant. They've got dedicated GP services sometimes. Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice for us to be able to do that? And you can basically, even if you'll move somewhere else hundreds of miles away, you have a right to go back and they will pay your transport. You're not allowed to get a train or a bus. You can only get a taxi. And so that we're paying for their taxis. Now, wouldn't it be nice if every elderly lady or elderly gentleman in this country or disabled person was given a free taxi for their health appointments? Also, my kid's going off to uni soon. You have to swap your GP appointment. You have to, but so once it's been swapped, you can't then, you've got to have the right to come back to London and see your GP there, and someone will pay the cab fare. This is mad. This is utterly insane. And the Home Office is paying. No, they're sodding well not. The Home Office doesn't have any money. We're paying. And even the migrant who had this £600 round trip was horrified by the cost.
But why couldn't they take the train? It is beggars belief. And
why couldn't they transfer to a nearer doctor like everyone else in the country has to do?
Well, yeah, even if they couldn't, there's still a train, a bus, a coach service. A hell of a lot cheaper.
You've got time, walk it.
Yes, but the Home Office said that it also didn't have the figures for how often taxis were being used and the total cost of it.
No, exactly.
Well, why not? Why not? This is our money. They are supposed to be responsible for it, and they have absolutely zero.
So flagrant with our cash, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have enough money for more police officers to be on the beat to actually arrest criminals. We had yesterday, while we were on air, the migrant who, illegal migrant in an asylum hotel. He was jailed. Come on. Jailed for such a short time, 12 months, he won't even serve that, for the sex attack on a 14-year-old girl, saying, I want you to have my baby, and then a woman who stepped in and then sexually assaulting her, touching her thigh. Again, not allowed to go around touching women's thighs. Sorry, I hate to break this to you. Oh, you didn't know that because, a bit confused about that. Oh, well, maybe that's why we don't want you in the country, mate. There were protests last night. There have been a couple of people arrested. But again, these protests are largely local people, local families. We spoke to one of the women who's involved in that yesterday. They want to deport him. I'm going to guess they're not going to be able to deport this guy.
Well, they can. There is nothing stopping them from doing it. The Home Office said they will do everything within their power.
He will claim that his conviction is going to make him a target of attack.
Of course. And that is absolute rubbish. And if the Home Office really were going to use every possible instrument to get rid of him, then they could do so. And they wouldn't care what happened to him back in his country of origin, because he is so far from being our problem.
Yeah, not my problem. Just not my problem anymore. But again, this is exactly, that thing that never happens keeps on happening, doesn't it? It just keeps on happening. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer said he wants to reclaim the flag from the far right. He's doing a speech on Friday. It's going to be another one of his little resets, isn't it? What are we in? Phase 37 now? I've lost track. But he wants to reclaim. The thing is, for the most of us, neither our Union Jack nor the St George's flag, neither of those were ever owned by the, quote, far right. But by definition, the Labour people think that anyone who does have the flag, apart from themselves, when they pose in front of it because they think they ought to, think that the flag is far right. We're proud of our flags, as every other country is.
Exactly. And when I saw the headline, he wants to reclaim it, I thought, well, where's it gone? Has he lost it? Has it disappeared?
He put it in a drawer and he can't remember.
He can't remember where he's found it. And it's just the most ridiculous thing. Of course, it's coming up to Labour Party conference, so he's obviously desperately trying to get some headlines out there to hide away from the little internal difficulties that he's got at the moment. But this isn't the way to do it. Labelling people far right, well, what does that mean?
Thing is, that's out there, mate. We know that's what you really think, and then you change your mind and, well, we risk living in an island of strangers, or you didn't really mean it, you hadn't read the speech.
Yes.
I mean, the man doesn't know what he thinks, other than the fact that he thinks we're probably all nasty racist bigots.
Yeah, he really does.
He really, really does.
Yeah, and that's all he particularly cares about. He thinks that we're wrong, we're nasty, we're far right just because we believe in controlling
proud of our
borders.
Country.
And we like a flag.
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with that?
What I love is all the people who go, flag-waving people. Oh, you give them a blue flag with yellow stars on in a circle. Oh, they love that flag.
Absolutely.
You give them a little Palestinian flag. Oh, way home from work yesterday. As is often the case now, going through central London, I'm sitting opposite some complete beep wearing her keffiyeh. Just a little with loads of little Palestinian flags all over it. And I'm like, oh, big supporter of Hamas, are you? I said.
What was her face like at that point?
She went, and I said, concerned about the hostages, are you? Oh, she said, go away. I mean, I hate these people, but I always feel I need to challenge them. Here's something else that's in the news. So Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, about whom we hear far too much, he's under attack because basically over what was called an admin error. He was part of this organisation called Labour Together. They were trying to challenge Jeremy Corbyn when he was leader, and then to try and get Keir Starmer elected as leader of the party. And basically, there was £700,000 in donations. You know, the easy one, almost £740,000. Now, he was in charge of this organisation. He didn't declare it. He then got fined. So it's categorically, it wasn't. It should have been declared and it wasn't. The Electoral Commission fined them in 2021 over this. And a leaked email from a lawyer seen by the Mail, advised Morgan McSweeney to drop a claim that he was making. They said it was unsubstantiated, you haven't got evidence for it, that he'd been told that these donations didn't have to be declared. And basically he said, you're antagonising the Electoral Commission because you keep saying this, but you haven't provided evidence of this. You need someone to, you need an email saying, this won't need to be declared, blah, blah, blah. So it advised that he should claim it was down to an admin error. Now, the Conservatives reckon that it wasn't an admin error because that wasn't what he obviously originally thought it was. Like, oh my God, we've completely, you know how it is. You've completely forgotten to declare 740 grand in donations. I mean, give me a break. They got 20 breaches of electoral law, including those undeclared donations. So question marks there. The Tories are calling on the police to investigate this. They say they think that Morgan McSweeney was being caught, this is the words of Kevin Hollinrake, the Tory party chair, that the evidence is clear. Morgan McSweeney has been caught red-handed hiding hundreds of thousands of pounds which helped install Keir Starmer as a Labour leader, and they think this doesn't just demonstrate his poor judgment and raise serious questions, they think that this is something the police should urgently investigate. How serious do you think this might end up being?
It is serious. Anybody that's ever dealt with donations into political parties, whether as a party representative or a candidate yourself, you have to put your returns out there. You have to say where the money has come from. You have strict limits. And it's there for a reason. It's there for everybody. So this isn't an admin error. An admin error is like losing a couple of receipts.
Yeah.
Not putting in
Not
your
putting a
train
couple
ticket.
of taxi receipts
Exactly.
in. Yeah. 740 grand. Well,
Yeah.
remember also, Darren Grimes, who we had on the show yesterday, our Reform councillor, and he led, was it Believe, the sort of youth campaign for Vote Leave, and he got a load of money. And he was hounded by the Electoral Commission, hounded by Ramon campaigners for years. And his young sort of, early 20s lad was absolutely hounded, absolutely exonerated.
Yeah.
hadn't done anything wrong, absolutely hounded though. I mean, so, you know, sorry, I want to know, here's the thing I don't get. Clearly the Tories think they're onto something here. This is a story that's a couple of years old. Yeah. It's been emerged about this already. And the fine was in 2021, but they reckon there's more here. There's this new email from this lawyer suggests that actually there was a cover-up. And that you're then into a criminal act, if that were the case. Yeah. Allegedly, everybody. But here's my thing. Do they want to basically, you know, oust the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff? I would say if you're a Tory, you don't want to oust Morgan McSweeney, because he's supposed to be the brilliant genius behind their electoral campaign and behind what Keir Starmer's doing now. They didn't win the election. The Tories lost the election. Yeah. They were way ahead in the polls, and then they got 34% on the day. And the only reason they're in power is because people went, we had enough of the last lot. They're way below down in the. I mean, they're plummeting in the polls. They're below 20% on occasions. Yeah. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. The left hand doesn't even know what the left hand is doing. They're in absolute chaos. If I were the Tories, I'd want Morgan McSweeney, the architect of this brilliance, to stay.
Of course you do. You want him to stay because you know that there are going to be further mistakes, admin errors, flip-flops, so, you know, call it whatever you like. You want him in there. But I think it's always helpful to point out that it wasn't Keir Starmer that stood up and said, we're going to bring transparency and responsibility and integrity back into politics. Yeah. Apart from $740,000 worth.
I remember that. Mind you, so did Rishi Sunak as well, but there we are. Yeah. Can we just find us, before we go to break, I mean, Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air, but I do think, you know, everyone's making far too much. Barely anyone watched that show before. The people might have watched it last night, made a big deal, and you get you know, some A-lister Hollywood, Robert De Niro on. No one really cares. He did a little bit tearful. Oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to make fun. You know, mate, you weren't taken off air because it was a freedom of speech issue. You were taken off air because you blatantly lied, you breached your contract, and you told a malign lie, and I'm sorry, I've got no time. This is not a free speech issue. But there we are. If I did that on air and there was a complaint, I'd be taken off air too. It's not a free speech issue. This is about somebody who deliberately told a lie, and all of his editors and all of his script writers and the 40,000 people involved in that all absolutely knew it was a lie, and he went on air and said it anyway. I've got not an ounce of sympathy, and I would absolutely love it if even one of those celebs who wrote this letter saying, oh, this is a free speech tag. What happened? What about all those celebs, those singers, those people who were threatened with cancellation, and many lost their livelihoods because they expressed a view that was perfectly reasonable, like, you know, trans women are men, things like that. Where were you then? Because you were absolutely quiet then, so I've got not a nanosecond of time for these people.
But it doesn't matter hugely to us either, does it? I mean,
it doesn't matter in America, really.
No,
I know everyone got involved, but they weren't. And in 3 weeks' time, they won't be watching it again.
No, and I should imagine that they only ever watched it because it was a clip on social media. Yeah. They probably didn't tune in for the entire programme.
And also, bearing in mind, these people are paid millions.
It's a huge amount of money. Yeah. And the executives are going to look at it and say, are we making any money out of this guy?
And if these affiliates refuse to, I think 20% of the states affiliates won't play it. One final story. Small matter. Two-tier justice doesn't exist. We keep being told that. Cancel culture doesn't exist. Two-tier justice doesn't exist. It's all in our minds. So remember the case of the man who violently attacked a protester who was burning a Quran, shouting F Islam outside the Turkish consulate in London. The man who attacked him, who came out, this is Musa Kadri, he came running at him saying, I'm going to kill you, repeatedly slashed at him with a bread knife. If you're watching, we've got the footage of it right now. It's on camera. It's not like there's a query whether he did it or not. He then got him to the ground, carried on kicking him on the ground and trying to slash him. He claimed he was defending his religion. He has been convicted of that assault. He was given yesterday a suspended 20-week sentence.
Yes.
I mean, it's a good thing he didn't write a tweet about wanting to do it, isn't it?
Oh, it had 5 years,
If he'd written a tweet about it, then he should absolutely go to jail. But no, he claimed I was defending my religion. Anybody? I mean,
defending your religion by running around with a bread knife, slashing at somebody, saying, you know, I'm going to kill you.
I would defend atheism in that case, but I would stand and, you know, talk to someone, maybe shout at them, but I've never felt the urge to. He literally went indoors to the Turkish to get a bread knife. So we've got absolute planning, and the only reason this guy survived is luck, right? It's luck. Yeah. The guy could have been slashed across the neck and died. This guy doesn't even serve a day behind bars, but if he'd written a tweet about it,
oh yeah,
and let's face it, if he'd been white, let's be honest, and he'd been on the right. No, let's be honest about it, because we know what happens. Yeah, he would have gone to jail.
Oh, he should have had a flag, and then he would definitely have gone to jail.
Absolutely, if he'd had a flag. And quite right, too. The only language these people understand. We're going to be talking about that with the Free Speech Union a bit later on, but this is very, very serious. We have a very, very big problem in our judiciary. Yeah. A very, very, very big problem with our judiciary. We need a mass clear out of these people. They are definitely not part of the solution. They are part of the problem. We'll talk about that later. 10:26 is the time. Your call's up next. Get in touch. 0344 499 1000, the number to call on any topic you want to call in. But I have a funny feeling that Trump is going to be leading. We'll go to those calls up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 10:30 is the time. Let's get straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000. Alan is in Salford. Alan, you want to talk about Trump's speech. What did you make of it?
Fantastic.
All 60 minutes.
Well, he's just got rid of all this wokeness nonsense and the rest of it. Yep. He said everything that's happening to this country now. And it was a masterclass in how to speak. Yep. Mr. Starmer couldn't do a speech like that. He wouldn't get nowhere near that, would it?
Oh, good. No, well, also, to be fair, everyone would have fallen asleep if he was an hour in.
Oh, yeah. But what he's saying about the Ukraine war,
yep.
There's 5 countries. I've just looked them up. France is one of them. Hungary, Netherlands, a couple of others. They're still buying oil worth $900 billion a month.
I know. It's just like no, Putin, we will put sanctions on you. Oh, please, can we give you billions and billions of dollars for oil and gas? It's absurd.
It's absurd. What's happening is they're giving them arms, the Ukraine, to fire over at Russia, and then we're giving them money to buy rockets and everything to fire back at Ukraine.
I know.
It's absolutely scandalous.
What did you make, though? What did you make of what Trump had to say about how, Ukraine should, later on in the press conference afterwards, he said that, Ukraine should, get all their land back. But he wasn't offering any more money. Well, that said, Zelensky gave a press conference and he had a definite spring in his step.
Fantastic. And then he said, do you think somebody's asking if the Russians make an incursion over any UN territory, should they shoot them down?
NATO territory, yeah. But also, why was that even up for debate? They've done it more than once. The first time they do it, one warning. Next time you do it, any NATO territory, plane gets shot down. And Turkey did it when a jet from Russia went from Syria into Turkish territory, clearly not by accident, and they shot it down. Putin never did it again. Funny that.
Well, the best line he put in that speech was he said every country is its own sovereignty, and it should be. And they were looking at him, you could see him in the crowd, they're all... And the UN, for me, has been the biggest load of... From the 60s, it was OK.
Yep.
But it's just nothing now.
Oh, it's a captured organisation. It's a waste of time. It really is. Oh, Alan, great call. Couldn't agree with you more on all of that. Thank you very much indeed. Carl's on the line in Liverpool. Carl, what do you want to say?
Good morning, Julie.
Morning.
Yes, 2 points. One on Donald Trump's speech. I love him. I think he's absolutely amazing. He's unfiltered.
I love that.
The teleprompter was broken. He's gone off script. And I love that because he's probably wanted to say that anyway, what's completely on his mind.
Imagine what Keir Starmer would have done if his teleprompter had gone off.
He'd just be mute. I think he'd have been mute, Julia. I don't think there would have been a word come out of his mouth because he can't exist without one. He needs to coexist with one.
Yeah.
He never...
Probably has one on a romantic dinner with his wife, doesn't he? He's got a little script just behind her head.
Don't get me started on him and his wife, please, Julia.
All right.
I think what we've seen yesterday from Donald Trump is the 100% honest truth when it comes to Europe. Telling it how it is, because we see it as public. We see it as the people on the ground, the boots on the ground, people every day. We see this. Yeah. Therefore, we take to Twitter. We call yourself to get our opinions voiced. But he sees this. Now, what everyone else must think was, so if he sees this, then everyone else does. All these other politicians, whether they're Keir Starmer or across Europe, they see the decline of their countries.
They must do.
They got to, Julia. They got to.
And they don't care.
Of course they don't know.
What else? You said you had a second point. What's your second point?
So when he mentioned Sadiq Khan, I think obviously it is personal. That should be kept out of it. But what I would like to ask Sadiq Khan, because he's all about diversity as our strength. Well, OK, Mr. Khan, if diversity is our strength, why are you so bad at your job? Why are you so incapable of doing the job that the Londoners seek and need?
Yeah, but I would say it's got absolutely nothing to do with his ethnic, racial, religious background. Got nothing to do with it. He's just not very good at his job.
No, he isn't, but it's because he bangs on about diversity as our strength, and he claims that it's the best. Well, that's absolutely fine. Yep. We are the most welcoming country in the world. Anyone that wants to come here and earn a living. But he keeps banging this drum. That's fine, but it's not our strength because he is an example of that.
Yeah, and again, also, here's the thing. We've had so much more diversity. It's like we've had this mass immigration, we've had all this diversity. How's that working out for us? I think the numbers don't lie. Carl, great call. Both calls, thank you very much indeed. Plenty more on the board. Can't wait to get to your call if you want to get in touch. 0344 499 1000. Up next, going to talk to James Bull of the New World magazine. What did he make of what Donald Trump had to say? This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:37 is the time. Let's get straight to my next guest, James Ball. He's political editor of The New World and joins us to talk about all things Trump. I'm sure you're happy to do that. Good morning to you, James.
Oh, always delighted to talk about Donald Trump, of course.
Now, we've already played a clip in the last half hour, so I won't bore our audience with another one. But Donald Trump basically saying your countries are going to hell, Europe, because of unchecked mass immigration, but also because of insane new suicidal net zero policies. I mean, he's not wrong, is he?
Of course he's wrong. We've got cleaner air, longer life expectancy, better life satisfaction. We're not as rich as America. I'll give him that. But
wonder why?
If I was picking one or the other, I would pick Europe still.
Well, but I don't think that's necessarily the choice. I mean, we could be better still, couldn't we? The reality is we've got virtually zero growth to all intents and purposes, and have done for many years. We've got a completely discordant society. We have threats of riots all the time. We've got, let's face it, a very blatant, clear two-tier justice system. We've got not a single public service that works well. We've got the highest energy prices in the world. I mean, which bit of it do you think's going well?
Well, as I say, we've got better crime, we've got better healthcare systems, we've got better social insurance. It's if you're going to be ill here. If you're going to walk in the street, do it here. I think, we are a much less racist country than America is.
I thought we were the worst. I thought we were the worst racist country in the world, according to the lefties here. No.
Not according to this lefty. I believe the figures. I believe the evidence.
Yes,
the UK,
I'm glad. Wait a minute, guys. Stop press. A lefty looking at the numbers. We are, of course, we're one of the least racist countries in the world. All the stats show that in terms of people's attitudes, mixed race marriages, etc., etc. Here's the thing, though. No, but there's a difference between those things. Can all be true. By the way, I'm not entirely sure. Depends if you've got money or not, whether you want to be ill here or not. I mean, you could argue that actually, there are you're better off actually in Romania. You get better healthcare quickly in Romania if you've got no money. I know this from someone who's actually travelled back from here to Romania because it's still better. You don't have a waiting list for it. But here's the thing. Overall, we can have all those things, but A, it could be better, and B, are any of those things, is cleaner air better? Is there any of those things being improved by making energy prices sky high with net zero policies and by bringing in half of the third world to this country? Has any of the things that you are saying are really great about this country or about Europe, has any of those been improved by the two things that he criticised?
I mean, look, I don't think Donald Trump is a good messenger on this. What he actually said was climate change was an outright con, which is just completely
I'm with him
false. On that. I mean, the evidence is wildly against him on that.
No, it's not.
The temperature
really
trend
isn't.
is very, very strong.
No, it's not. But again,
it's easy to Mott and Bailey him. I think we're always going to have quite high energy costs here. North Sea oil is diminishing. Whether you want to drill it all or not, it's expensive to get it out now. There isn't as much of it. We are an island in the corner of a country. America is going to have cheaper energy than us just because of its very, very lucky gift of natural resources.
It has amazing natural resources, but James, but it uses its natural resources. Norway, also relying on the North Sea for their oil supplies. Norway doesn't have energy prices as high as ours. Why not?
Well, Norway's almost entirely green power. They sell their oil, they don't burn it.
They sell their oil. What a brilliant idea. But hold on a minute.
They have cheap
Wouldn't it be a great idea
energy.
if we sold our oil?
Norway makes my argument, not yours.
Wouldn't it make... No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. They're reliant. Their funding is reliant on that oil. But they also know they've got the backup when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. As you know, they also, by the way, are not a major industrial economy. Small point worth making in terms of their tiny population compared to us. So rather different in terms of reliance in that way. And they're not relying on solar power most of the time. I think we can safely agree on that as well.
I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the thing. But they're making money and they're improving their economy and their balance of trade by drilling for gas and oil and then selling it on the market. But we, for some reason, even though it's expensive, can't do that.
Look, they've got a lot more oil relative to the size of their economy. They've got better fields than we do. They were savvier in what they did with them. Putting it in a sovereign wealth fund instead of just shoving it out there. I think we could all agree.
Yep.
we did not manage our oil well, but unfortunately, this sort of idea that suddenly the North Sea goes from a very mature field that's declining, which if you talk to senior oil and gas execs, they will tell you this. There's a sort of fantasy idea of the North Sea as if it's still 1970s.
No, I understand that,
not.
but we also have gas that we could frack.
A modern energy mix has got to look different. And look, fracking is a very different issue when you're in America, where there is land to the horizons, where there is all sorts of areas you can frack that's nowhere near big populations, that's nowhere near housing. That's not where we are,
I completely understand.
Fracking is going to be in your garden.
I understand it's not going to be in your garden. I understand all of those differences. However, nevertheless, we have a lot of the same issues as other European countries, and our energy prices are, I think, double the norm, the average in Europe, and they are 4 times what they are in America. I think we can safely say we're doing something wrong. And we know even in Germany, again, they've gone down the green route. How's that working out for them as their manufacturing base completely and utterly disappears? Let's talk about the issue of immigration, though, because he says your countries are going to hell over unchecked immigration. Now, he's made it really clear you can, we're an island nation. I think it'd be easier for us to stop migration, even if the whole of Europe wants to carry on having the Schengen area and have people just wandering across the continent. That's going to be up to them. Although it does look like a lot of those nations are beginning to put more controls in. But he's able to stop this huge pouring of people over this massive long border with Mexico. He's doing mass deportations for illegal migrants, and we're still struggling. We've sent 3 back in an exchange scheme with France after 31,000 have arrived just this year, and that's just the ones we know about on the boats. Doesn't include the people on lorries or all the people who've overstayed their visas. He's right, isn't he?
I'm not sure he is.
Which bit's wrong?
Well, he's quite unpopular in America on immigration.
No, he's not. His immigration policies are wildly popular.
No, they're not. The most recent polling, this is out this week, he is -11 on immigration, which is his best issue. He's at -19 on the economy.
One of the reasons he was elected was this policy.
Are not loved. Yes, I agree, but now people are seeing it in action. They're really taking against it. They're seeing the cost of doing this. Trump also had 4 years as president where he completely failed to control the southern border. I'm not sure this is a competent executive. We need to.
Well, he did, but he's in office now, and he's done it. 10 million people or so came over during the Biden years, and now the flow has gone to a tiny trickle. I don't think you can say that he's not been able to do the thing that he said he was going to do when he was elected.
No, I said his first term he completely failed.
Yeah, but we're not talking about his first term. He's in power now.
I am. But look, it's going down partly because people are looking and going, I don't want to go there.
Because I'm going to be deported, yes.
Well, I think there's a risk if we keep screwing our economy. It's not because people will be deported, it's because no one's going to want to come here. But
No, James, that's ridiculous.
We have never had
people living in Nicaragua and Mexico are always going to want to go to America. They don't want to bother going because they know they're not going to be able to get across the border, and if they do, they're going to be deported. That's exactly the sort of policy if we had here, we wouldn't have this uncontrolled net migration. And this is from illegal migrants. And what about legal migrants? Because we're constantly told diversity is our strength. We need immigration for growth in this economy. We've had mass immigration since the Blair years, since about 2000, and we've had flatlining growth pretty much that entire time. So I think we've pretty much established that it's not a boon for our economy.
I think it's probably the only thing that stopped us being in fairly constant recession throughout. I mean, look, it's dismal. It is dismal. We need a growth story. We need to get some productivity up. We need to work these things out. But as it is, we are not training in key professions. We are not structuring things like care work so that Brits want to do it. We don't do it because we know employers know they've got an unlimited supply previously of Eastern Europeans to turn up to do those jobs on low wages, and now people from the Indian subcontinent. I was about to say we've used immigration to in a quite cynical way to
so
press
it's not
wages
been a good thing for our economy, has it?
I think it's all that's held us together, but it's all that's held us together because of very bad decisions like austerity, like low wages, like other things.
Why there were low wages? Because we had an unlimited supply of cheap labour.
Well, yeah, no, I'm agreeing. in some of these areas, it's very obvious that that's what's happened. Jeremy Corbyn said that in 2017.
Well, it used to be a left-wing position that you would protect British workers, but, you don't care about them anymore. Finally, I just want to ask you, what do you make of Donald Trump and what he had to say about Ukraine? Do you think, when he says he's talked about, you try and get your borders back, and he's talked about Russian jets incursions into NATO territory, that they should be shot down? Do you think this betrays a big sort of game-changing change of attitude in terms of his attitude towards Vladimir Putin?
It does for today, but it won't tomorrow. He agrees with the last person who spoke to him, and Zelensky's done a great job there in getting a good message through. It's a good message today. But Trump has given Putin a last warning with 2 weeks to act now, I think, for about 12 weeks. And every 2 weeks there's a new last warning. Anytime someone from Russia says something nice, the message changes.
So don't get your hopes up.
No,
okay.
it's good.
Well,
it's
one
fine.
person he seems to give a lot of credit to is Vladimir Putin, but it's certainly not Sadiq Khan, the London mayor. He's accused of Sadiq Khan of being a terrible, terrible mayor. He's got a war of words ongoing with him before and after his trip. Both times he's been on a state visit. He's now accused him of wanting to put London under Sharia law. What do you make of that claim?
I think it's a fairly ludicrous and fairly obviously Islamophobic claim. I mean, also, Sadiq Khan, you can criticise him for all sorts of things. I would happily do it over housing. I'm not happy with what's happening with housing starts here, but he is a mayor who walks on pride marches. He is very pro-LGBT. He is not trying to come in as a sort of aggressive radical Muslim and impose law on it. Okay. And a lot of this comes from very racist memes of things like no public drinking rules near football stadiums, and someone will get a mosque in shot and make it look like it's Sharia. He is internet poisoned on this. You can accuse Sadiq Khan of many things. I think radical Islam is not one of them.
I have to say, I would agree with you on that. Let's end on a note of agreement. So unusually, James Bull, political editor of the New World. Thank you very much, Steve, for that. 10:49 is time. Up next, we're going to be talking to Mark Littlewood about the latest migrant failures and also the economy. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:52 is the time. Let's talk about the Home Office's latest bid to deal with the one in, one out migration issue and the little exchange scheme we've got. Little. It's almost like I went on the Bristol Bordeaux exchange when I was a 13-year-old. It's almost like we've got one of those. Claire Pearce, you're a former Conservative government advisor in the Home Office. We've had 31,000 plus and counting in so far this year since January the 1st arriving on boats that we know about. And we've sent 3 back to France. We don't even know whether some 3 or more have come back from France. They haven't told us.
I mean, it was always going to be this way, wasn't it? I mean, where's the deterrent? Because they were busy removing a couple of people last week, and then, what was it, 900 arrived on a boat across a weekend. And you sort of think, well, that's really working well, isn't it? Thanks, Keir, for that.
Yep. You've got to laugh or else you'd cry. Let's talk about this with Mark Littlewood. He's Director of Popular Conservatism. It's all going terribly well, isn't it, Mark?
It's risible, isn't it, Julia? I mean, utterly hopeless. I mean, I was never taken with this French exchange scheme, even if it worked. But what have we learned, right? What we've learned is our politicians can't do anything because it all gets gummed up in the courts anyway.
Every time.
And I mean, this is pathetic. I mean, I've got a tiny smidgen of sympathy for a legal challenge about the Conservatives' defunct Rwanda scheme. I suppose you might be able to just about mount an argument that although Parliament decreed that Rwanda was safe, that there's some evidence that it wasn't. But
apart from the fact that the UN and other bodies in the EU, I think, have sent people back there.
I mean, what we've got to do is to get this out of the hands of the courts and back into the hands of elected politicians. There's no point, really, in just having an immigration minister if anything that he or she does is just going to be subject to lawfare and not even get off the ground. Now, I think even if this French scheme was working as planned, it's a rounding error, isn't it? But nevertheless, the fact that it's subject to legal action against it, it's just pathetic.
Well, indeed. Well, I mean, look, but yesterday, I mean, we talk about an Eritrean. They got three people out, but an Eritrean migrant. He claimed he was the victim of modern slavery. He didn't remember to mention this when he was first interviewed, but 3 days later, after assuming a refugee lawyer had got in touch, it turns out he was a victim of modern slavery, and he needs more time to make his claim. But lawyers for the Home Secretary have been warned that the temporary block was causing real damage, they say, to the public interest. Well, yeah, but as you say, even if this scheme worked, even if they got it up to the pilot scheme aim of about 50 out and 50 in a week, we're still no better off, are we?
Yeah, and I wonder, I'm starting to think, Julia, that we're tackling this down the wrong end of the telescope. Obviously, we're going to need deportations to work better, and we're going to have to change our legal system to do that. Yeah. But the big issue is the magnet that is pulling people in. Yeah. If you are willing to offer rooms in hotels, a very high chance of staying, lots of welfare,
free work on the black, work on the black market, £300 taxes to your doctor.
Yeah, I mean, if all of that is on offer, then, I suppose you can gather up a handful and kick them out, but they are going to be arriving literally by the boatload. Yeah. So you've got to change that magnetic pull factor. If you don't do that...
Absolutely. And by all accounts, I mean, the boats are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so we have fewer boats. They go, there are fewer boats, yeah, but they're now carrying, 65 migrants when they used to carry 30 migrants. But apparently they're going to be moving to, I kid you not, 18-metre. I mean, how on earth? We are talking about a huge boat. These are like sort of yacht-sized boats, dinghies, which are going to be even more dangerous with hundreds of people on board. God knows what deaths we're going to see. But then, you choose to get on one of these things. Frankly, you're taking your own chances, in my view.
Yes, I mean, I can sort of see that argument. I mean, I think where we've got to be practical and realistic is you were mentioning earlier in the show, Julia, that sort of if Europe wants to open its borders country to country, so be it. But we're an island, it should be easier. Yeah. I wonder if that's the case. I mean, I don't know what the total length of the British coastline is. It's going to be colossal. If you are absolutely determined to make it from mainland Europe to some spot on the British coastline, it's pretty difficult to stop you. I mean, we should try. The English Channel needs to be better policed. But we basically, despite being an island, or perhaps because we're an island, we have pretty porous borders. It's not that difficult to set foot on a British beach and make it inland. So that being the case, I'm of the view that, by all means, we've got to change the legal system, make it easier to kick people out. We probably need a third country to render people to for these cases like, here is the evidence that I was in modern slavery. but you've got to stop the flow, not just deal with the stock.
The government says, I mean, we've got lots of concern, and we've seen with the asylum hotels, although there's an argument, at least we know where they are in asylum hotels rather than living next door to us. But Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, is going to apparently attempt to deport an Ethiopian asylum seeker. This, again, let's call him what he is. He's a legal migrant. Within weeks, he was jailed for 12 months yesterday for sexually assaulting a 14-year-old schoolgirl and also a woman who tried to protect her. He said, I want to have your baby, touched her on the thigh. I mean, like, just blatant. He arrived days earlier. This prompted all these protests outside the Bell Hotel in Epping. And again, that thing that never happens has happened again. And he's been jailed for 12 months, but of course won't be jailed. It won't be 12 months. It'll be a few months at best. But the Home Secretary said she's going to deport him. I bet you anything he'll be able to claim to his lawyers that because he's got this conviction, this sexual assault conviction, that he would be facing, persecution in Ethiopia, and therefore we couldn't possibly send him back. I bet you anything that's the argument they use in the asylum tribunal.
Yeah, you could well be right. And this is where we need some completely straightforward black and white rules, right? It needs to be, I think, if you have committed an offence which could lead to a prison sentence, you're out. No questions, no issues.
Don't care what happens to you after, it's not a problem.
That is on you. You made it here. You were not obliged to sexually assault someone or commit a criminal offence. You chose to do so. Here, I'm afraid, is the punishment. But we are going to be so gummed up in human rights laws and refugee conventions and modern slavery conventions. I mean, I'm not saying we should rip all of that up, right? If you really can prove that you're a law-abiding person who is fleeing slavery, I will give you an absolutely fair hearing. Yeah. But we cannot believe that that is what is happening in the broad sweep in the majority.
And also the fact that they're mostly young men. It's amazing how many women don't appear to be victims of these crimes, isn't it? Martin Edward, thank you for joining. So much more I want to talk to you about, but so much more to go on the show. He's Director of Popular Conservatism. Love to hear your thoughts on all of that. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. We'll get more from Claire Pearsall. Lots more top guests coming up. I want to hear your calls as well. In particular, talking about Donald Trump, but also, the abject failure, once again, of our ability to actually deport anyone from this country we don't want here. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Thank you so much for your company, whether you're listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device. Always great to have you join us. It's 3 minutes past 11. We've got lots more to talk about. If you do miss any of the show, if you missed the first hour, where have you been? But you can go to my YouTube page. It's called the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. You can hit subscribe and you never have to miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking more about Donald Trump telling the United Nations yesterday that European countries are going to hell because of unchecked immigration. He said to the General Assembly it was time to end the failed experiment of open borders. I mean, hallelujah to that. He also, in a lengthy speech, he was only supposed to speak for 15 minutes, teleprompter went down, he went and riffed for another hour, but there we are. He took a swipe at not just net zero, but this Labour government's net zero policies, wasting, he said, Britain's tremendous North Sea oil and slamming the construction of windmills and solar panels for ruining that beautiful Scottish and English countryside. Also, a lot of problems for number 10 right now after a leaked email has emerged that revealed that a top Labour lawyer advised Keir Starmer's now Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, to describe a £740,000 hidden donation as an admin error to the Electoral Commission. It ended up facing some 20 different fines from the Electoral Commission. But this was when he ran a think tank called Labour Together, basically to try and oust Jeremy Corbyn and put Keir Starmer in as Labour leader. But the Tories are now saying there's now evidence, they claim, of criminal actions, not just sort of an admin error. We'll talk about that. Plus, Keir Starmer's going to do another one of his little reset speeches on Friday. Good luck with that, Prime Minister. Every single one of those goes so well, but he's going to attempt to reclaim the flag from what he calls far-right protesters in a speech tackling the rise of divisive populism. It's amazing how much unpopular Prime Ministers hate populism, don't they? He's expected to say on Friday that the St George's and Union flags are for all of us and should be symbols of unity. Well, go tell that to your mate Emily Thornberry, but there we are. Anyway, lots coming up, lots to talk about. I do want to hear from you, particularly on Donald Trump and his speech. But as you know, you can talk about anything you want to. Just give us a call, 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk and your message to 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost £1, standard network rate message. Particularly want to hear from you about Donald Trump telling the UN that European countries are going to hell because of unchecked immigration and net zero. I mean, he's right. I don't agree with everything he says. I'm very clear. I praise him when he says things that I agree with, I think are right and evidence-based, and I criticise him, like when he's saying that Sadiq Khan, Sadiq Khan is a terrible mayor. I don't know why it's his business whether we've got a terrible mayor in London. That's the business of Londoners who, for some reason, keep electing this man as a terrible mayor when you can see all the problems in the city. But no, he's not bringing in Sharia law in London, although we do have a problem with Sharia law across the country because there's only one law in this country, and it's the law of the land, and it ain't the law of any religious organisation, and we need to be very, very clear about that. Anyway, to chat about all of that in the news and plenty more is Claire Pearsall. She's a former Conservative government advisor. She was in the Home Office and is, I think, rather well placed to comment an awful lot of this. Good morning to you again.
Good morning.
Let's just, first of all, should we play a little clip of Donald Trump, just because it's quite good fun? Yeah. Let's play Donald Trump talking about how, basically, European countries are going to hell.
When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did. They repaid kindness with crime. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. Any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done, and it's what it's all about.
And you talk about a globalist migration agenda. You worked in the Home Office. Is there a globalist migration agenda? Or are people, is it just individual people just wanting to make their way to a better country where they can have a better life? But is there, are there left-wing groupings? Is there pressure from, countries like China and Russia and Iran who are actually pushing a lot of this because they know it does completely undermine our basically how our societies sort of coalesce and gel together?
There is a school of thought that is what is happening. I don't buy that as much. I don't think there is some kind of globalist reset going on. What I do think is that there are gangs involved who wish to destabilise.
Yeah.
Now, it's a slightly different argument. And I think that these aren't just, a gang setting up on their own with one person and setting up some boats. I think that these are properly organised crime groups which...
Well, they're making money from it. They don't have a political agenda.
They don't have a political agenda. They just want to make a load of cash out of it, and that's what they're doing. So, no, I don't buy that. But the most interesting thing about that speech at that point is when you look at the faces of all the other delegates in the room. Yeah, and they're just looking at him, wishing the floor would open up and take him away.
Oh, I think here's the funny thing. You think a lot of these countries that really rail against people, like Nigel Farage or Donald Trump and these issues, maybe you should wonder, why is it so many people in your own countries want to leave your basket case countries? I'm trying to think of a polite way of saying it. A lot of these countries aren't. A lot of countries in the world aren't baskets. They're authoritarian, they're poor, they're chaotic, they're corrupt. Maybe you should wonder why all these people want to leave your godforsaken countries to get to the West. Yeah. Maybe there's a reason. Here's the thing. I really understand why someone would want to do that. Sorry, we haven't got enough space for you all, so we're going to have to be a bit more choosy. And I'm saying at this point, we're done. Thank you very much. Move on. Yeah. Sort your own country out. Why don't you try and adopt some of the values and the systems that we've got in this country, and maybe your country would do well. And why don't you stop leaving all your women and children behind and your elderly and coming here? I've become far more, far right on this issue. It's not just, I'm done. I think it's a centrist view that I don't think our country should open its doors to every single person who, from the many billions around the world who want to come here, make a better life, to come here, full stop. And he's quite right. Like, the thing is, the Europeans are finding it very difficult, whether it's Keir Starmer, whether it's Emmanuel Macron or Germany or Italy or wherever, they're finding it very difficult to stop these people arriving. But Donald Trump's got a much longer border. In Mexico, he's able to stop people arriving. He's basically closed that border. He's now deporting people en masse who have no right to be in the country. This is what Nigel Farage and others are talking about. This is not an extreme view. This is kind of what used to be the norm before this. Maybe he's right. Maybe there's an agenda. This whole idea, and there's no doubt at all, a lot of these NGOs, these non-governmental organisations, these charities, they get funding from sort of leftist organisations. A lot of the funding of a lot of the BLM, the transcript, a lot of the things that undermine the cohesion in our society, community relations, pride in our culture and our history. A lot of this is being funded by nefarious groups, nefarious people. A lot funded by China, by Russia, people like that. Yeah. There is. That's not a conspiracy. That is happening. But most migrants are simply moving because they want a better life.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think that having met some of these NGOs as well, they might be funneling the money, but the brains aren't there.
Oh no, they think they're doing good.
Yeah, they're not that sensible.
But that's because you've got an education system, not just at schools but universities, which is telling these people that you're only a good person if you think that borders are a terrible thing.
Yes, and that climate change is real. You must believe that.
No, not that climate change. No, the climate changes, and we are getting warmer now. Yeah, but coming out of an ice age, of course we're getting warmer. The climate change is a catastrophe for the planet. Is the lie. It's not.
Well, I mean, this is it. We have to.
Simply isn't. There's no evidence for that.
Declare there's some kind of climate emergency every 5 minutes, and that's why we need to welcome people in. And I don't buy any of that. I do think that Europe and Europeans as a whole have been far too understanding, welcoming, accepting of all of this movement without thinking about what it does to their population. And now they're starting to go, hold up a second, we don't like it.
I think people have been saying that for a long time, but they've been muttering it to their family members, and they've said it in the pub, and they
now they're saying it out loud.
And now they're saying it out loud because, again, we've managed to shift the conversation to actually, it's acceptable to say that. Some people like me have been saying it. I've been writing columns about this since 2000 in the Sunday Express. Of course, we were decried then. I saw it firsthand when I worked in the East End on a local paper a few years before that. I knew what was going on. I knew it was a disaster then. Yeah, it's been a disaster ever since, and it's not done any. It's particularly the people it's harmed. Actually, is ethnic minority, religious minority groups who are already here in small numbers, perfectly well integrated. That's what it's done.
And those communities have really, really suffer now.
Yeah. Well, at the same time as having this conversation, we've got the Home Office losing its latest bid to send one in, one out, and migrant exchange deal with France. I mean, it's not a deportation deal. They literally can't get the fourth person out. I mean, it's an absolute joke. It genuinely, it's laughable. If it wasn't something that would make you cry.
Exactly, especially as they have already sent one Eritrean back already, so it can't be.
Did he forget to mention as well that he was a victim of slavery?
Or did they just not ask him that question? Did they ignore that piece of the paper?
By the way, most teenagers asked to empty the dishwasher think they're a victim of human trafficking and slavery.
I had to ask my 16-year-old to bring down his bin from his room.
How dare you!
Honestly.
Call the police now! Now!
Eye-rolling, proper Kevin
I don't
the
accept
teenager.
eye-rolling. I genuinely, not in my house.
No, well, I made him...
Not in my house.
I made him go out and actually put the bins out right at the back, and he was going, but I'm only wearing shorts. I went,
I should put... That's it.
But yes, I mean, he would...
Parenting 101 there, by the way. We should start a parenting podcast,
can we?
Can we please do that?
Yes.
Right, there's an idea for right.
Right.
Now, all these people, like experts, let me look at your kids. No.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I once saw an old head of a school that I knew. Okay, genuinely. Okay, it's my daughter's school. Right. She was in the queue in front of me at the supermarket with her two kids having epic tantrums in the queue at the till. And I would normally be the parent, the person who would say, be quiet to them. But I was enjoying it too much, watching the head unable to control her own two children. I'm just standing there. I know she's thinking, of all the parents to be standing behind me in this queue while my children are doing this, this is the mum I most don't want to be here.
Did she just see your grin?
I'm literally like, we're all just going to pretend I can't see this. But I mean, seriously, control your kids. But there we are. That's it. Yeah. we digress. But look, we can't get rid of these people. It's ridiculous. And what do you make now? Interesting development here on Donald Trump telling Ukraine, take back all your land and then go further. Not quite sure what that means. Yeah. He's also said that NATO should shoot down Russian planes if they get into NATO territory. I mean, by the way, that's literally normal international affairs. But Donald Trump has basically talked, he's talked very warmly about Vladimir Putin. He had that summit in Alaska, literally rolled out the red carpet, allowed him to go in the Beast, his own limo, for goodness sake. Putin saw this as a major, major PR win. But they haven't seen any movement. He's been given a lot of leeway. It looks like Donald Trump's patience for Vladimir Putin is wearing thin. And he basically said, telling Ukraine, take back all your land. Zelensky certainly had a spring in his step when he arrived at a press conference. Today, the Kremlin has pushed back, saying that the idea that Ukraine can retake the territory Russia occupies is an idea that is deeply mistaken. They said the invasion was not an aimless war. But they also said the process of normalising relations with Washington was moving much slower than it had hoped. What do you make of all that?
I mean, again, this is the sort of ongoing saga. Clearly, Trump and Putin have had a little bit of a falling out. Maybe there wasn't WhatsApp returned or something. Yeah. You get this every
Someone
couple
didn't
of
send
weeks.
flowers.
Exactly. Every couple of weeks. It does depend who the last person Donald Trump has spoken to as to which side he's going to be on. I like the fact that he is standing up for the people of Ukraine, but it was quite interesting when he was asked the question about shooting down of Russian planes, and somebody said, well, would the US go in and back up and help out? And he sort of went, nah, maybe. Depends.
And this is the thing. And this comes back to stuff he said in, 2018, when he came over and criticising NATO members for not paying their way. He was quite right about it then. He's been quite right about it ever since. They're still not paying their way. I mean, you get, the Baltic states, the Estonians, the Polands. They're paying their way, but they are small economies. They understand the threat. But there is this concern now. He'll carry on selling arms made in America to NATO countries who can then give them to Ukraine. But he's basically been saying very clearly, this is Europe's problem. I mean, I don't really have a problem with that. It is our problem. I mean, I think it will be the world's problem. I think he's wrong not to think it's also America's problem. But I think for far too long we've expected taxpayers in America to pay for our defence. Certainly, like German taxpayers have got away absolutely scot-free for decades with a Peace dividend, not bothering to actually provide proper defences for their country, expecting us. Ireland and countries like that, by the way. I mean, we're all very strong on the island of, on the, recognising Palestine. Whose army and all that. I mean, really?
And that's the point, isn't it? Whose army? Because I think all European nations,
a tentative one, but,
European nations have been incredibly lax at keeping up defence spending because it's been peacetime and we kind of everybody's gone, well, we don't really need to do it. And this is where Trump is right, that you do need to invest in that. You do need to spend money because what happens if a country gets involved.
But military leaders have been saying this for years. They've been saying it's an issue for years.
And it's governments that haven't been able to spend it. But, I mean, do we really want to start a war with Putin? No. Because
we're not starting a war with Putin.
It's not just Europe's war. It will move into other regions as well. But also, Putin can't be allowed to just take the land in Ukraine because where's he going to go next?
Why are his jets flying over NATO territory, Poland, Estonia,
12 minutes?
Why? That's not an accident. They know. We spoke to a military expert yesterday. Made it really, really clear. No, of course they don't do this by accident. It's a load of nonsense. They know what they're doing. He's checking out what our reaction is, and what's our reaction so far? We're not really very sure. No, the response should have been first time. Do that again. We will shoot your jets down. Do it a second time after that. Well, it was for the third time. We're at war. That will be a declaration of war. Yeah. When Russian jets in Syria flew into Turkish airspace, they were shot down first time. Never did it again.
Do you know how long before they were shot down? 17 seconds.
Yeah. Because they know where they are.
Exactly.
And you choose it. And he's testing us. And we are so badly failing that test. Yeah. This is the thing. We are in very, very dark times. We have so many different threats. We've got, Islamic fundamentalism threat. There's an existential threat to Israel and the West. It really is. Yeah. We've got the threat from Russia. Clear military threat to our allies. We've got the threat from China. That is going to blow up big time in the next decade. I mean, big time. We are not prepared for it at all. We are just absolutely. We've got the fifth column within. We've got so many people in our own countries who would willingly just give up all of our freedoms and our strengths. Just to sort of because they're so lily-livered. We've got all these problems, and we've got leaders of virtually all these countries. They might grandstand. I mean, Macron's great at grandstanding, but you need to be able to put your money where your mouth is. Well, you need to be able to put your fighters and your tanks where your mouth is. That's the reality. And I do not. People go, oh, you're a warmonger. No. Putin's the warmonger. Xi Jinping is the warmonger. The Iranian mullahs are the warmongers. Hamas leaders are the warmongers. But your ability to defend your values, your allies, your own nation depend on your willingness and ability to fight back.
Yeah, you need to be able to send out that message because otherwise, what's the point? If you can sit there so hand-wringing, well, they're not going to listen to that, are they? They only understand.
I've not met a serious military expert or strategic thinker who doesn't think we are in 1930s, late 1930s territory right now.
Yeah.
War, I'm afraid, is the norm in global politics. War is the norm. What we've had in Europe for the last, few decades is the abnormal, not the normal, and we need to get to grips. We really do. Let's talk about what is definitely normal in this government, and that is scandals. Whether it's free suits and glasses and dresses for your wife, whether it's your free football tickets, whether it's being dodgy with your mobile phone being stolen, having to resign as transport secretary, being dodgy about your stamp duty payments if you're the deputy prime minister. What else have I missed? I don't know. It's so difficult to keep up.
Problems in Bangladesh.
Some problems, but your anti-corruption minister facing a corruption probe. I mean, it's my MP. That is. Hi, Tulip. Hope you're doing well. It's just extraordinary. Now we've got question marks over the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff. This one, we've gone through a few. This is Morgan McSweeney, who, again, is in the news far too often for someone who's supposed to be a backroom boy. But he's basically is being accused of possibly being involved in criminality, allegedly by the Conservatives who want the police to investigate. This is over £740,000 of donations to an organisation called Labour Together. It's a think tank, basically, aimed at, in the late teens, getting rid of Jeremy Corbyn as leader and then trying to get Keir Starmer elected as he was in 2020 as new leader of the Labour Party. £740,000 weren't declared. Electoral Commission in 2021 fined the organisation, but now we've seen the leaked legal advice that he received about what he should claim about these donations. He says, apparently he said he thought he didn't think they needed to be declared. How any donation wouldn't need to be declared is utterly befuddling to me, but the legal advice basically said it would maybe best to simply base our case as down to an admin error. Now, the Conservatives are saying there is evidence that he had been hiding money, hundreds of thousands of pounds. They call it a scandal. They say this is poor judgment, raising serious questions about the Prime Minister, expressing full confidence in his Chief of Staff. Nothing to see here, Keir, they call him. I like that. May think he can ride this one out as he tried to over the Mandelson-Epstein scandal. Perhaps he's too weak to fire a Chief of Staff who tells him what to think. But they said we're going to get to the truth. They're calling on the Police and Electoral Commission to urgently investigate. Now, the Electoral Commission say this is done and dusted. This does seem to be a new development, though. How dangerous is this?
I think it is dangerous because we are all under the same rules when it comes to donations into political parties for campaigning purposes. You have to declare them. So why would you take legal advice as to whether it should be declared or not?
And why did Darren Grimes, who ran Believe as part of the Vote Leave campaign, young in his 20s, now a Reform councillor, why was he dragged over the coals for years with police investigations, Electoral Commission, everything?
But I've seen it in local campaigns as well with leaflets. And people going to absolute town to say that you've gone over your allowance. And somebody did in my area by 20
quid.
leaflets.
Buy 20 leaflets. Yeah. Explain briefly to people who have more sense than to get involved in politics how this works. Because you can set up, either if you're like running as an MP, as a candidate or a councillor, or if you've got like a body that is working for a political aim, you get given, you've got certain amounts of money you're allowed to spend.
You do. Every election campaign will have a limit which you cannot go over. So in general election terms, it isn't a huge limit. I think we're up to about 10 grand, I think. It's not big, especially when you take into account what America spend on campaigning.
Billions, yeah.
But you have to account for every single penny you spend. That's every leaflet, every billboard.
Biro,
every biro, balloon, badge, you name it, has to be accounted for. And
which must be a pain in the backside to do, but nevertheless, you have to do it.
But your election agent is the one that has to sign it off, and they will be
legally liable.
Legally liable.
And if you get, for instance, get some central office or Labour Party head office, send a load of free T-shirts with logos on.
God, it's the worst thing ever.
Because that has to be declared somewhere.
Yes, it really does. And the worst thing is if they send a battle bus full of people, because that has to be
accounted for. We've seen that happen with it. Yes. But the reason for these laws is
to stop there being any undue influence from parties with larger budgets than others. So everybody is a level playing field. Doesn't matter what size
there's a reason for this. There's a reason for this. Well, we're going to talk a bit more detail about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. How big an issue is it? I mean, it's just the latest issue. But again, as I said earlier, I don't know why the Tories are gunning for Morgan McSweeney. He's the architect of Labour's Labour victory. He's election victory. He's the architect of everything apparently that goes on in government right now. He's doing such a brilliant job. If I were you, Tories, I'd try and leave him in place. Just say a little bit of free advice to you there from Auntie Julia. Anyway, 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Love to hear your thoughts on all the stories we're talking about. A lot of you getting in touch about Donald Trump's speech to the UN and just how right he was to say that Europe is basically being completely and utterly ruined, going to hell because of unchecked migration and also net zero policies. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Give us a call. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 11:28 is the time. Let's get straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000. Lots calling in about Donald Trump's speech to the UN yesterday. Dave is in London, wants to have his say. Good morning to you.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Very well indeed. What do you want to say, my love?
Look, this is not so much about the speech, but this annoying trait that's really beginning to annoy me about contributors that come onto the show and the presenters as well, yourself included. And it's as follows. I was just watching Mike earlier, and he had a great guest on who I really like.
Yep.
But here's how she explained the speech. I really don't always agree with everything Donald Trump has to say, but it was a very powerful speech that covered a lot of topics and brought it really home. Why can't you guys stop going, look, I don't agree with everything Donald Trump says, but just say Donald Trump made a very powerful speech. It hit a lot of good points, and it told Europe where they're going wrong. But
isn't it because we don't agree with everything he says? I mean, the same way I would say about Keir Starmer. So Keir Starmer made his, but I'd say, look, I don't agree with everything he says, but he was completely right about this. That's what I would say. The same thing.
Yeah, but this is a sort of a centre-right type disease. Nobody on the left would say that. Nobody on the left would come on your show and say, look, I don't always agree with everything that Keir Starmer says, but...
I do actually have guests who say that. I do. I understand your point. I'll get a load of messages, people saying, oh, Trump derangement syndrome. I've said I would have voted for him this time around. I wouldn't have voted for him the last two times. He was the best on offer given what we had. There are lots of his policies I massively support. But I think there's a lot of people, and I would say this about pretty much every politician, actually. There are things that I don't agree with, and I don't want to ally myself with any particular politician because there are things like this I disagree with and I think they're wrong on. So I think lots of people just want to say, look, yeah, I call it when I see it, whether it's good or bad, but I'm not saying, oh, everything this person says is brilliant. Not everything he said was right.
No one's suggesting you do. That's obvious, but it's this trait that goes on all the time with many people, and it's only ever normally Donald Trump and everybody else. It's very rarely on the left. They have far more convictions in what they're saying. And I wish people...
No, that's not them having convictions. No, not at all. That's just them being tribal. That's different. I'm not tribal. If someone on the left says something sensible or does something sensible, I will support them and say it.
But saying that Donald Trump made a very powerful speech and it was really good for the union without all that stuff at the front doesn't make you tribal. It just says you thought the speech was really good.
No, I thought the things that he said, here are the things that I thought he said that were good, and here are the things I thought he said was nonsense. What's wrong with that?
Well, the contributor earlier on wasn't going on about anything in this particular speech that they felt was bad.
Well, the Sharia law stuff is nonsense. I mean, what he said about Sadiq Khan, I don't think he should go on about Sadiq Khan only because it only encourages him to think he's a somebody. But I mean, no, I don't look. I understand your point. I don't accept the criticism, and I don't know why it bothers you so much that people on the left are totally tribal and go, no, everything Keir Starmer said or everything Joe Biden said was fine. No, I mean, why can't we? I think being more nuanced about it makes more sense.
I don't think it's nuanced. As you just said, that the person could have said, I thought Donald Trump's speech was very powerful when it came to this, and this. I didn't like what he said about Sharia law. But you don't have to keep making this generic thing, because it's almost like you're apologising to like something Donald Trump says. So we'll throw that in first, and then
I think some. No, I think some people do that. I'm not apologising for liking anything he says. I've always said from time immemorial, when he's right about something, I'll say he's right about something. When he's done a good job, I'll say. But I'm not MAGA. I'm not a fan of Trump as the human being, as the man. No, I'm not, and I don't agree with everything he says. So I want to make that clear.
Yeah, but no one would think that of you anyway.
Oh, you'd be amazed. I mean, again, the idiot element on social media often do, but you get it both directions. You've made your point. You made it very, very firmly. I completely accept your point. I mean, I understand your point, but I'm going to carry on using my choice of words as I see fit. Sorry about that. Thank you for your call, though, Dave. Appreciate it. And I want you to know that I don't agree with everything Dave said, but he had a good point. Sorry, Dave. Jason's on the line in Wiltshire. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jerry. Just so you'll be pleased to know I'm not eating my dinner this time when I speak to you.
I like to point out, if you just tuned in, last time Jason came on, he goes, oh, sorry, I didn't know you were going to come to me. I'm still finishing Misani. But anyway, thank you very much. What do you want to say, Jason?
It's just obviously going on with Donald Trump with the immigration thing.
Yep.
I did agree with everything that he said.
Dave, what have you started, mate?
Yeah, I'm sorry. But basically, one thing what he's forgotten to mention is obviously his neck of the woods and our neck of the woods. We've got this nice grey cloud under us called the ECHR.
Yeah, European Convention of Human Rights. That's the problem. Yeah,
we're never going to do what we want to do, which then leads me on to Nigel Farage. I love the bloke. How he comes out with what he's, what he says, but how is he going to do what he's going to do? Because whilst we're in the ECHR...
He says we're going to get out of it. He's been really clear about that. The Tories will be offering that as well.
How is he going to do that?
You give 6 months' notice. We're out. Bye. Thanks.
Yeah, but you watch all the kick up and all the stink and everything that will happen when he tries.
That's why he's going to need a very big mandate so he can get all this stuff done. No, I'm sorry. If it's in the manifesto, there's no point having elections if British governments are elected, whether it's someone I voted for or I haven't voted for, if they can't change the law with a majority in Parliament, then what's the point of ever having an election again?
No, I know. I completely understand what you mean, but... I'll more believe it when I see it.
Oh, it's going to be...
I hope it does.
Anyone who thinks that if Reform get elected, Nigel Farage is Prime Minister, it's going to be plain sailing. We are going to be talking about the level of chaos that we had post-2016 in terms of trying to get anything done. The might of the blob will be against him. But you know what? Some of us might say, well, then we'll do what we can to help. But there we are. 11:35 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. Claire, do you want to add anything? Claire Pearsall, by the way, still here, former Conservative Government Advisor.
I don't agree with everything Jason just said.
We've got to stop
he
doing
made
this.
some really good points. It's interesting. The ECHR is not the silver bullet that everybody thinks it is. And also, should Reform get into government next time round, it's a lot of work to do.
You've worked in the government, trying to get anything done.
It's difficult.
But here's the thing also, like, let's basically start sacking public servants who don't understand that they are public servants and not the masters. There are so many people who need to be told very, very clearly, yeah, that's not how it works anymore. That is something I absolutely do agree with Donald Trump and Elon Musk on, but there we are. Anyway, up next, we're going to talk to a Labour councillor, Sebastian Selleck, about where we are with Keir Starmer and his Chief of Staff. Is he giving full confidence in yet another member of his team who won't survive? That's up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back to the show, 11:38 is the time. Let's talk to Sebastian Sadiq. He's a Labour councillor in Waltham Forest and joins us right now. Very good morning to you, Sebastian.
Good morning, Julia. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you for joining us. So I'm probably doing a bit better than your Prime Minister's Chief of Staff today. Can we ask you about Morgan McSweeney? He's a name that, I mean, basically, if you've got a Chief of Staff and you're Prime Minister and your things are going well, we probably shouldn't even know this guy's name because he'd be busy in the back room getting the job done. He was mastermind of the election victory, we're told, well, the defeat of the Tories anyway, and of also policy right now. I don't know if he's in charge of phase 1, phase 2 or whatever phase we're in this week, but he's got some questions to answer, according to the Tories, from Heath. They believe the police and the Electoral Commission over a £740,000 set of donations made to a think tank he used to run, Labour Together, which weren't declared to the Electoral Commission as they were legally required to be. The organisation was fined quite considerably for failing to hand it over, but we've now got a leaked email from a senior Labour lawyer seen by the Mail advising him to drop a claim that they said was not evidenced, unsubstantiated, that he'd been told these donations didn't have to be declared. I don't know why he would have thought that. And to say that it was an admin error. Does this suggest there was possibly a deliberate attempt to basically, hide a huge amount, hundreds of thousands of pounds of donations into a think tank?
We can never know, to be completely honest.
We can do an investigation and find out.
Yeah, and look, if the Electoral Commission wants to investigate, they should, and let's act on the basis of that rather than speculating on what the outcome might be. As I understand it, it seems that the conversation between McSweeney and the Electoral Commission happened over the phone, and that is the difficulty. There's no record of that, and that's why he has nothing to rely on when he makes that assertion. But it also seems like this was all wrapped up a long time ago. Clearly, there were some donations that should have been registered that weren't. That was a mistake. But then Labour Together wrapped that up. They paid the fine to the Electoral Commission, and that was that.
Look, was that. In 2021, they paid that fine. But the claim was that it was down to an admin error. We've now got in writing, not a phone call, but in writing from a lawyer advising him that actually he should drop his unsubstantiated claim that he'd been told that the donations did not have to be declared. So that he had deliberately, it wasn't an admin error, he had deliberately not declared those donations because he believed that they didn't have to be declared. I still can't work out why he would have thought that with any organisation like this, as far as we understand how donations work to political organisations. This was about trying to basically move the party away from Jeremy Corbyn and towards someone like Keir Starmer getting elected. He then went on to become his Chief of Staff. But if actually he had to be advised by a lawyer, no, actually you have to claim it was an admin error, well then it obviously wasn't an admin error, it was something he did deliberately. Now, to deliberately not declare these sums to the Electoral Commission, if that were the case, would be a criminal act. Should the Electoral Commission reinvestigate? If only, in your mind perhaps, to clear Morgan McSweeney's name.
Yeah, and look, I can see why he might have thought that as well. Labour Together is quite unusual as far as organisations go. Nominally, it's a think tank, and think tanks aren't registered or overseen by the Electoral Commission, and that creates all sorts of issues. There are loads of think tanks that are really shady and take money from all sorts and then campaign on their behalf. But then there is an element of Labour Together which the Electoral Commission thinks is more about campaigning. It falls under what a political party might do, and therefore comes under the auspices of the Electoral Commission. So I think that's where the confusion is, and that's where the disagreement is. So it is. There is a reason why this confusion has come about. I want to see everybody follow the rules. I want to see everybody go along with investigations, and I'm sure they will if one happens. We don't know whether one will happen. What's a bit weird to me in all of this is why the Tories are sticking their oars in. We have an organisation that looks after this. The Electoral Commission exists for a reason.
Well, a lot of people
act as world police on this one.
A lot of people, including me, would have some big question marks about the, should we say, political inclinations and views of those who work at the Electoral Commission after the absolutely outrageous treatment of Darren Grimes, who ran Believe, a sort of youth sort of wing of Vote Leave, and the man was, I would say, bullied and harangued by the organisation and was found to have done nothing wrong whatsoever of donations. And certainly, it seems to be very, very different. Let's have a casual phone call with Morgan McSweeney over this think tank. But when it comes to someone on the Brexit side, rather different treatment. We've seen what happened with investigations into Aaron Banks over the Leave.eu campaign. There does seem to be a lot more concern over certain political parties and political causes and their donations than there does over others. Two-tier justice at all, anyone?
Labour Together was fined as well, which was
£14,000 for 3 years of undeclared donations totalling almost £750,000.
How does the Electoral Commission decide what its fines are?
I have no idea.
Well, then how can you comment on whether that is commensurate or not?
I don't know. I didn't know whether it was commensurate or not. But
you're suggesting
they didn't. If 3 years of undeclared money, or £750,000, suggests this is not a minor issue. I don't think that's an admin error. I really don't think that's an admin error.
Hang on, we're going around in circles now. You were saying that you thought the 14,000 was not high enough. Is that right?
No, I wasn't saying that. I'm just pointing out they got fined £14,000.
Okay, yeah, which is the right thing to do, right? If you break the law, you break the rules, you pay the fine. That's right.
Well, the Labour Party paid the fine, yeah. But the question is the motivation, whether it was deliberate or not. One is an admin error, and one is, as is being alleged, not proven yet, no police investigation, a criminal act, which is very different.
And let's be clear, I believe it was Labour Together that paid the fine. We should be really clear that Labour Together isn't part of the Labour Party. It's a separate organisation.
No. Well, certainly at the time was we had a different leadership. Okay, well, we shall wait and see. But here's the question: should the Tories be going after Morgan McSweeney at all, given his track record in office as Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister? I mean, if I were in the opposition party, I'd be thinking, let's keep this guy. He's doing a great job.
Well, it depends on your view on Morgan McSweeney, doesn't it? The Tories are always going to attack, as any party is going to. It's just the nature of politics, isn't it? I just find it a bit weird that they're trying to go the Electoral Commission, which is a body that's set up to investigate these things. Say what you want about it. You know, if you want to allege any kind of bias, that's a separate conversation, as far as I'm concerned. But it exists for a reason, and it's kind of weird that the Tories are trying to be part of that. You'd think they'd get along with trying to reclaim some level of relevance. And I say that with love. Look, I want there to be strong opposition parties in this country. I think it's good for democracy. It's sad to see the Tories where they are at the moment. And I'd rather they focus their energy on trying to come up with fresh ideas to take to voters rather than trying to brew up some idea of scandal.
Well, you say, I mean, who knows? I mean, the only thing is the Prime Minister has said he has full confidence in his Chief of Staff. That doesn't seem to have worked out very well for quite a lot of people, like the former ambassador to the US and indeed his former Deputy Prime Minister and others. Every time they get full confidence, it all seems to go a bit wrong.
Well, Starmer sacked Mandelson, and that was the right thing to do.
The day after he said he had full confidence in him.
Yeah.
And he had full confidence in Angela Rayner, and a few days later she had to resign. So does this bode well for Morgan McSweeney, his Chief of Staff?
Let's remember what happened, because it's really important that we talk about the details here. When he had full confidence in Angela Rayner, that was before the Ethics Commissioner came out with their report. Of course you can't have half confidence in someone, can you? It's a blind...
Yeah, it was unfortunately after he knew that she had actually taken more legal advice. But there we are. Can I ask you about something else, because time is a bit short? We've had Donald Trump at the United Nations yesterday and criticising various things. I mean, an hour-long speech should have been 15 minutes. He went off criticising countries in Europe, basically saying countries are going to hell over uncontrolled migration and net zero and the like. He also had a dig at Sadiq Khan, and he basically said he's a terrible, terrible mayor. He's had a war of words with Sadiq Khan going all the way back to 2016. And he basically said Sadiq Khan, which I think he hinted, he's trying to bring Sharia law to London. This is what Sadiq Khan has just said in response to those attacks from Donald Trump. He said, I think President Trump has shown he is racist, he is sexist, he is misogynistic, and he is Islamophobic. What do you say to that?
I think it's not far off, is it? I mean, his first gambit as president way back in 2016 was a ban on Muslims entering the United States. That's pretty Islamophobic in my books. And now he's making up fake news, as he likes to call it, about Sharia courts in London. Just not true, completely baseless.
We do have Sharia courts in this country, which are basically, there's been a lot of concern about them running as rival legal system to the only law of the land, whether that's in London or elsewhere. That is a concern. Whether it's got anything to do with Sadiq Khan, I think is questionable. But,
well, that's it. And let's remember that Sharia courts have absolutely no legal basis in this country.
No, however, they are often being treated as if they do.
But by people who buy into them, which is not me, it's not you, it's people who want to do that. And if they want to do that, that's absolutely fine. They can crack on. And it doesn't affect anybody else. But the fact that Trump is saying this about London, it really upsets me, because we are the greatest city in the world. We are the greatest city in the world. We happen to have a Muslim mayor. And the fact that he is being targeted for that fact, he's being pinpointed because of his religion, I find really, really tiresome. I just think it's people, we're better than that.
I have a million criticisms of Sadiq Khan that I've taken up to him personally. But he's asked me, why are you always criticising him? I have no issue whatsoever with his skin colour, his religion. I think they're totally and utterly irrelevant. However, I have an issue with virtually all of his policies. I think London is the greatest city in the world. I've lived around the world in countries like, in Americans. I've lived in places like New York, which used to be great cities and absolutely are not anymore. However, I think I don't know anyone who lives in London who doesn't think we're going down the drain in terms of rising criminality and inability of people to buy homes, to stick with their families, a lot of problems in lots of other areas in our healthcare and everything. I just don't think there's anyone who lives in this city who doesn't think that things are going horribly wrong. And I hate to tell you, he's been the mayor for the last, 8 years?
Yeah, look, I think we have got a housing crisis in this city. That is an indisputable fact.
That's partly down to him and failing to build more homes. To
an extent, we are the victims of our own popularity in London. I mean, I'm a councillor in East London. I sit on a planning committee. I do my best to sign off and to build as many quality homes as possible.
And who do they go to? And who do they go to? Because you know a huge number of homes, new homes in this city, when they are built, they go to people who are foreign nationality. They don't go to born and bred Londoners.
So a lot of these are affordable. So they go to people who are below a certain wage. Yeah, okay, relatively affordable.
Who's affordable? George Osborne's affordable. What was that, 450 grand?
Yeah, it's below market rent or market sale prices, which is important. We have to make sure that everybody can be able to afford a home. It is not somewhere.
They can't. It's not going to change anytime soon.
No, they're not. But
certainly not in London, where Sadiq Khan is a terrible mayor.
But we are signing off homes. We are building them for everybody.
What about crime? He's added dozens and dozens. I think even over 100 PR staff and other staff at City Hall on huge, big inflated salaries. Loads of people on 6-figure salaries at City Hall. But apparently we can't get enough coppers on the street to keep us safe.
Let's address crime, because this is really important.
Very quickly.
You are less likely to be a victim of crime in London than you are in the rest of the country. I know that sounds staggering, but it is true. I promise you the stats are there. The issue we have at the moment is visible crime. It's stuff like phone snatching, which people see. And when you see it, you feel unsafe. And I want to...
You don't feel unsafe. You know you are unsafe.
We're working to crack down on that as well in my little corner of London. But broadly, crime is falling in London, and that is a really good thing for everybody.
Yeah, again, we keep seeing it's not all crime. Plenty of crimes. There's plenty of violent crimes and street crimes are not falling. They're actually going up.
The murder rate is lower.
Oh, great. The murder rate.
Than Berlin. Is it Berlin, Paris, Madrid?
Yeah, we don't have so many guns. I justify you to tell anyone in this country that they think that the crime rate is going down. That is not what they experience. And we know huge numbers of people.
I'm just telling you what the stats are.
And you were very specifically picking out something. And this Sadiq Khan did this in a tweet the other day. He picked out sort of 3 stats which were going down when there were plenty of other stats in the same bar chart that were going up, and just doesn't bother mentioning those. Don't tell us stuff that we know to be untrue with our own eyes.
Look, there is a big difference between crime and perception of crime.
No, I'm not talking about perception of crime. I'm talking about actual crime statistics.
No. You have literally told me that
there are plenty of crimes that are going up in London.
And that's completely valid. If someone says, I feel unsafe...
No, I'm not saying I feel... No, I know that my city is no longer as safe as it used to be. I know this because the violent crime stats are going up. Violent crime stats are going up. That is a matter of fact.
Can you give me some numbers?
I haven't got the numbers right here on me, but I'm happy to post them online and you can look at them there. Sadiq Khan posted 3 stats that were going down, and there were plenty of stats in the same set of crime stats which showed other serious and violent crimes were going up.
I don't know what stats Sadiq has been talking about, so I can't comment on that.
Well, I'll find it, and I'll find it in the break, and I'll post them, and we'll get you back on. But if you're a councillor and you don't know that some violent crime stats are going up in this city, then frankly, I don't know where you've been living all this time. Sebastian, we'll have to leave it there. We're desperately late for a break. Sebastian Salett there, Labour councillor in Waltham Forest, who thinks everything's absolutely fine in London. If you want to call in and tell him why you don't think it is, from any of the cities in this country, I'd love to hear from you. This is Talk. 0344 499 1000 is the number to have your say. This is Talk.
the number of foreign nationals on universal credit is estimated to be about 1.3 million people, right? Yeah. That's not a small amount of people at all. Right. And that's actually increased by 40% just over the last 3 years. And if you look at the overall cost of it, not just with universal credit, but with other benefits as well, if there is a foreign-born national inside just one household, that's costing taxpayers upwards of £1 billion a month, which is like £12 billion a year, which is more than enough to take a penny off income tax.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. 11:55 is the time. Right late for that break, so we're going to move on next guest until the 12 hour. But we were just talking to Labour councillor Sebastian Sadiq, and he was saying about, crime is down in London. What great place it is. Obviously, after Sadiq Khan has responded to Donald Trump, calling him racist, sexist, misogynistic, and Islamophobic for what he's had to say at the UN about him. The Sadiq Khan did actually talk about. He tweeted out about key crimes are down in London, like knife crime down 19%, residential burglary down 10%, theft from the person down 13%, as was personal robbery. From the same set of crime statistics, the same period the Mayor of London used, gun crime up 18%, rape up 9%, sexual offences up 11%, business robbery up 38%, theft from the person up 12%, shoplifting up 38%. But apparently everything's getting better in this country and everything's getting better in this city. Those stats don't lie. The same set of stats that Sadiq Khan selectively chose from, the same set of stats that showed you all of these crimes were going up. It's not how people feel, is it? Claire Pilsell used to work in the Home Office as a Conservative government advisor. I mean, but it's all the people feel. I know I've lived in the same place for 19 years, and we've had 2 attempted burglary attempts. Both of them have been in the last year. Both of them in the last year. Have never had any before.
And that's the thing. It's not just people's feeling. You can back this up with stats. And
phone
that's
thefts,
what the left
bag thefts. Never had a bag stolen until last year, ever.
And this is it. I've seen so many people having phones snatched or been, sort of muggers on bikes going past in London. I've never seen that before until the last 18 months. It has gone up exponentially, and the left can't deal with that, and they just go, "Oh no, you're just reading into it differently. It's a different set of statistics."
Exactly,
really,
it's just
really
madness, isn't it? What would you make of Sadiq Khan's response that Donald Trump is racist, sexist, misogynistic, and Islamophobic? Donald Trump's claimed that we didn't exactly claim that he's Sadiq Khan, he's a terrible mayor, and we've got a problem with Sharia courts in London. Now, with Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, she has defended Sharia courts and very clearly in a statement very recently, she said they should be tolerated and has refused to denounce them. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't tolerate them and I do denounce them. But Donald Trump linking Sadiq Khan, let's face it, because he is brown-skinned and a Muslim, with that's what he did. He did link the two. He did. We know that. Does that make him racist, sexist, misogynistic and Islamophobic? I'm not quite sure what the sexist and misogynistic's got to do with these things.
Well, that's what I was a little bit confused about. I didn't see where that fitted into it. But I also think, what is the point of Sadiq Khan putting that statement out there now when they already put a statement out yesterday saying that they don't recognise any of that and London's a lovely place? Why then drag it over to another day?
This is the first time. Listen to Paul Clip. He's told broadcasters. He said the public will be wondering what it is about this Muslim mayor who leads a liberal, multicultural, progressive, successful city that means I appear to be living rent-free inside Donald Trump's head. I mean, he really does.
He does, yeah.
When people say things, when people act in a certain way, when people behave in a certain way, you've got to believe them. And he said, I think President Trump has shown he's a racist, he's sexist, he's misogynistic, and he is Islamophobic. The thing is, he says we live in a liberal city, a progressive city, a successful city, multicultural. No, I don't want to live in a multicultural city. I've got no issue whatsoever about living in a multiracial city. Yeah. I don't want to live in a multicultural city. I want to live in a British city, the capital of this great country, with our own traditions, values, cultures, laws, and norm and social norms. No, I think the multiculturalism is the worst thing that's ever happened to this country and to this city in terms of undermining our country.
But I just want the Mayor of London to be concentrating on making London better and safer,
rather than bigging himself up and getting into battle. Why are you getting into? He's the one who tweeted. Why are you getting into a battle with Donald Trump? Just run the city you're elected to run.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, they're both as bad as each other. Frankly, if they were kids, you'd just slap them both, wouldn't you? Just like bang their heads together, wouldn't you? Can get on and run the country and run the city, so you're employed to do. This is Talk. More up next. This is the Home of Common Sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning. Welcome back to the show. Good afternoon. Sorry, welcome back to the show. It is now afternoon. It's got 2 minutes past midday. This is Talk, Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. And whether you're listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or on your connected device, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Don't forget, if you've missed anything of the show, you can go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. Hit subscribe so you never have to miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking more about Donald Trump telling the United Nations yesterday in a long speech, it was 45 minutes longer than it was supposed to be, that the European countries are going to hell because of unchecked immigration. He said it was time to end the failed experiment of open borders, and also he attacked net zero, and particularly how Britain was allowing our English and Scottish countryside to be ruined by windmills and solar panels. I couldn't agree with him more on all of that. And also in what appears to be a major change of tack when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, Donald Trump says NATO should shoot down Russian fighter jets that intrude on NATO airspace. This marks a hardening of his attitude towards Moscow. He also said that Ukraine should take back their country, take back their land and more. We are also going to be talking about a man who violently attacked a protester who was burning a Quran outside the Turkish consulate in London. How he has avoided jail. Musa Kadri told his victim, "I'm going to kill you," went in and got a knife and then began slashing at him repeatedly with a bread knife. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the footage right now. He then kicked him when he was on the ground. Now, the man claimed he was defending his religion. He yesterday, in a British court, was given a suspended 20-week sentence. A suspended sentence. Well, it's a good thing he didn't write a tweet about it, or he'd have gone to jail for a year, wouldn't he, for that assault? Of course, there's no such thing as two-tier justice, is there? Plus, we're going to be talking about Greta Thunberg, who thankfully is in the middle of the Med still and not on our TV screens. But that flotilla that she's been helping to lead, bound for Gaza, descended into chaos after reports that pro-Palestine activists quit the convoy when they learned that LGBTQ+, whatever that is, campaign were on board. The Swedish activist has also reportedly stepped down from her leadership role due to disagreements among organisers. I mean, it's almost like they've got Zora Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn on board, isn't it? Anyway, we'll talk about all of that and plenty more besides. Thank you so much for joining me. Do have your say on any of the topics we're talking about. Can't wait to get more of your calls. 8344 499 1000. Lots of you getting in touch about Donald Trump. Very much appreciate those calls. You can also text us on 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost 1, standard network rate message. Claire Pissell is also still here. She's a former Conservative government advisor. Claire, I mean, this Trump speech is really, it's getting to everyone. I mean, look, let's face it, you and I massively agree with him on the migration. We need to get to grips. You worked in the Home Office, get to grips with that. Also on the net zero. He then made comments about Sadiq Khan, Sharia law. And again, and I'm guilty of this as well. We've been kind of making those together. He made a point about you've got a terrible, terrible mayor in Sadiq Khan. Yeah. He has hit back on this. He also was saying you've got these Sharia courts. Now, he was linking to the fact that, and lots of people are getting in touch and pointing out, Trump did not, this is a Planet Veritas pointing out, Trump did not say Sadiq Khan was bringing in Sharia law. He referred to the fact that it's now being practiced in the UK and endorsed by the current government. Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, has said quite clearly on record that Sharia law should be tolerated, and she refused to denounce it. Now, I'm not in favour of any. It's not a law. No. It's not a law. Sharia is how under Islam, you should be. Yeah. But you come and live in this country, or you're born in this country. I don't care what your religion is. There's only one law. It is the British law. End of. Made by our Parliament, and that's it. End of. Nothing else. You can be guided by your priest or your rabbi, whatever, or your imam. But I hate to tell you, they are also, and you are also guided by the British law, end of, full stop. That's the point. Sadiq Khan, though, has responded in a pooled interview with criticism of him, saying Donald Trump is racist, sexist, misogynistic and Islamophobic. And he says, the public will be wondering what it is about this Muslim mayor who leads a liberal, multicultural, progressive, successful city that means I appear to be living rent-free inside Donald Trump's head. I mean, he does live rent-free in Donald Trump's head.
I do think that's a fair point.
He's small enough to fit. I cannot express you quite how tiny Sadiq. Last time I had a conversation with Genuine, I'm wearing heels. He must have come up to my waist.
He's
honestly.
about 5'5".
I mean, I am a giant, to be fair. I beat people in real life. They go, "You're so tall."
Yes. And I agree with that. That Sadiq is living rent free in Donald Trump's head. Yeah, I agree with that.
But Donald Trump is also living rent free in Sadiq.
Absolutely, it works both ways. And you can't then accuse the president of being incorrect on some things when you're going to call him sexist, misogynistic, racist. The name calling, I think they need to just stop this.
There's some very evidence from Donald Trump's own mouth.
Yes.
Sexist and misogynistic attitudes.
But if you're just
I think that he is, and I've always said this. I've said this since he first started running for election. Absolutely. And again, people say, well, how could you say you would have voted for someone like that? Because he was the best on offer at the last election, 100% with his policies and in terms of how awful Kamala Harris is in every single possible metric. The racist Islamophobic. He did ban, people from Muslim countries from coming into the country. There's one thing saying there are some countries there's some problems, and a lot of those are Muslim countries. But what he did, I'm sorry. Yeah. I've got issues with that, and I think everyone should. And that he is racist. There was some evidence about him not wanting black tenants in his New York apartment buildings. There are a lot of this is not an unreasonable criticism. Now you can sit there and go, oh, but you're criticising Donald Trump derangement syndrome. I'm talking about stuff that is in writing or on tape from Donald Trump himself.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
But people
with that.
didn't elect him as American president because they liked his personality.
No, he was the best person
policies.
on offer, and they liked the policies he was.
His policies are very popular.
But I do think with Sadiq Khan, he said his piece yesterday. I don't think he needed to say it again today.
Well, but then we're talking about Sadiq, and I hate myself for it. Because the only time I want to be talking about Sadiq Khan as London Mayor is when he's actually doing something useful to make our streets safer, make buses more reliable, do his job. Rather than just woke signalling with the New Year's Eve fireworks.
I think that he would have got my respect if he just turned around and said, "I wish Donald Trump well."
He should really.
And then just moved on.
They are embarrassing, both of them on this one, aren't they? Well, look, let's talk about this and many other topics with my next guest in this hour, former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administration, Steve Gill, who joins us now. Good afternoon, Steve.
Hey, ladies, how are you?
Thank you very much. Oh, you see, good old America. Hey, ladies. Steve, I must ask you just first of all, just about the Sadiq Khan, to and fro, Donald Trump. Sadiq Khan, our London mayor, says Donald Trump lives, he lives rent-free in Donald Trump's head, but it seems to work both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that we have to get back to the not to the personalities, but to the policies, and I don't think anybody can really argue effectively.
Oh, Steve Gill, you sound like you sound like a bot has got in. Steve, my darling, could you start again because we've got a bit of a bot there. It was all it sounded like a robot was talking. Carry on.
Yeah, I think that you've got to get back to the policies rather than the personalities, because I don't think Sadiq Khan can argue effectively that London is safer, more prosperous or better. So he's having to come with the anti-Trump rhetoric to defend the fact that he can't run a city.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely true. He really can't run a city. He once came up to me at a party conference and said, "Why are you always criticising me on Twitter?" And I'm one of the few people able to reply to his tweets because he always has a block on, because he follows me. And I just stood there and went, this. I literally listened. I think I was at number 9 when he went, "Oh, all right," and walked away. And I said, "Well, you asked me why. I don't have anything personal." Do you think a lot of this is personal, though, and that this is what Sadiq Khan is claiming, Sir Sadiq Khan, that he's racist, sexist, misogynistic, Islamophobic, and saying this is about he's got an issue basically with a Muslim mayor?
Well, I think, though, that when you're looking at what the Muslim mayor has done, it is not to make London, better as a multicultural city.
Is it relevant? Is it right for Sadiq Khan to claim that it's because he's Muslim? Is it relevant at all to Donald Trump, do you think?
Well, I think if it's Sadiq Khan's policies that are based upon the fact that he is promoting Islam ahead of what's best for London, then I think that is a legitimate question about what he's doing. I think when you look at the people that are allowed into London, that are allowed into England, the illegals that are coming in. Well, he's not in charge. I mean,
Sadiq Khan's not in charge of immigration policy.
Right, but when you're doing things in the city, sort of what we've seen in our big cities in the States, where you are rewarding illegal immigrants with housing and with benefits and things like that, you are playing in the illegal immigration role by what you're doing to embrace them, welcome them, and bring down the culture of London by embracing a culture that is not the culture of England, the culture of London. And again, as we both know, there are many places you cannot go in London today if you do not fit the profile that Donald Trump was criticizing.
This is true. This is absolutely true. I mean, that's anyone claiming that's not the case hasn't been paying attention. Let's talk about a bit more of what he had to say in terms of telling the UN about your country is going to hell, to Europe. Let's have a little watch and a listen of what Donald Trump had to say in his very lengthy speech in relation, in particular, to migration.
When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did. They repaid kindness with crime. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. Any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done, and it's what it's all about.
I mean, these were very strong words, and I think an awful lot of Europeans, we've seen in the voting in general elections and indeed in the polls right now in the UK, a lot of people saying, yeah, we're kind of done with this. We are not happy with it. But are we going to hell, and is there a globalist agenda?
I think when you look at not just the UK, you look at the voting patterns you're seeing in Italy, that you're seeing in Germany with AfD on the rise. I mean, he is right. I mean, Macron's government has collapsed. So the populism that is a rejection of kind of the flood of illegal immigrants that are continuing to come across, the boats into England. The people are feeling it, and it's the leaders who are not, and certainly the leaders in the United Nations are as distant from the people in their countries as you could possibly be. It was harsh talk, but it was truth. And I think sometimes harsh truth is not well received by those who have made the policies that hurt things.
Well, he's said a lot of harsh truths to the European leaders over the years, and I think he's been right about all of them. Certainly things like NATO leaders in Europe not paying their way and things like that. It was right. I think he said it in 2018 in his first term in office. He was right then, much castigated, talking about various different threats, and he was right about all of it. There's no doubt at all. He also criticised net zero, in particular a dig at the government here and the solar panels and the windmills, he calls them, blighting our beautiful countryside in both England and Scotland. I couldn't agree with him more on that. I wince every single time I go past a wind turbine. And he talks about how, you know, in terms of we are basically, you know, this failed experiment in open borders, but also how we're killing our economies with net zero. We had a guest on earlier pointing out on the left, he's from the left, basically saying, look, you know, it's easy for America. You've got all these massive natural resources. You've got all this space for your fracking. You've got the oil and the gas. You're the biggest net exporter of gas and oil now in the world. All right for you, but actually Europe, you know, like especially like Britain, you know, we're a much smaller country. We haven't got all the space and we haven't got the natural resources. Easy for you to say. What would you say to that?
You can buy it from us. You know, we see that some of these environmental policies don't work. Again, if they were effective, you know, the windmills, the solar, those things that we have pushed down our throats here from time to time, if they worked, you wouldn't have to subsidize them.
Yeah,
they would be competitive economically. They are not.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've been making this point to people who've done blue in the face for quite some time. He also had some interesting things to say about defence policy, in particular about, you know, Russian jets entering NATO airspace, as they've done on numerous occasions now recently, you know, or a number of occasions, Poland, then Estonia and elsewhere, and basically saying, yeah, if a Russian jet goes into NATO territory, you should be shot down. Why is this not already happening? That's what I want to know.
Well, because some of these incursions into territory haven't happened. I mean, Estonia had these claims that Russian jets were flying over Tallinn for 12 minutes when in the results came out, no, they were flying in the Baltic offshore, 3 miles offshore. That's not the truth. And I think some of the hysteria that's being promoted with untruths, yeah, start shooting Russian jets or anybody else's jets when they're flying over open international waters, and you are provoking a war. And Estonia doesn't even have any jets, so I'm not sure how they're going to fight an air war when they don't even have any airplanes. So again, I don't know why there was this provocative effort of let's drive us further towards war by shooting down jets in open territory that are not incurring into NATO territories.
Well, we certainly know with Poland, there's 100% that it was over their territory. You know, again, there's some question marks about who claims what, whether they were over international waters or not, but we know what happened when Russian jets left Syria and went to Turkish airspace. They were shot down within seconds. Never did it again. There's no question at all. The Kremlin doesn't do this by accident. They know perfectly well what they're doing. They're testing the waters, and NATO is supremely failing that test.
Yeah, and again, I think you need to look at some of the rhetoric and some of the reality. And if they fly over London, yeah, shoot them down. If they're flying over international waters, you know, again, who's going to shoot them down?
They regularly fly over international waters. Russian jets are constantly going down the channel, but we don't shoot them down then. We might send up fighter jets to sort of go alongside them. But, you know, should we wait until they fly over London?
Well, we have the same sort of thing that happens in the Bering Strait between the U.S. and Russia.
Yeah.
Again, their bombers come towards us. We put fighter jets up. My dad was a fighter pilot for 22 years. So this has been going on, you know, my entire lifetime since I think we got from the Wright brothers and started having jets.
Let's also talk about Ukraine, because Donald Trump sold Ukraine that, you know, you could take back all your land and then go further. I don't know what he meant by that, but this is very, very different from only a month ago or so when he was basically saying, you know, for all intents and purposes, Ukraine, well, forget about Crimea, long gone 2014, but also the Donbass region as well. And there wasn't even a proper guarantee on offer that Russia would stop Russia from taking any further land. He's obviously losing patience with Vladimir Putin, and he made a lot of remarks about how, you know, well, you know, I thought this was someone I could work with, but, you know, obviously not. Certainly President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine had a spring in his step when he spoke to reporters yesterday after meeting with Donald Trump. Does does this suggest there's going to be a big change, perhaps even a U-turn in policy in terms of backing Ukraine, or are we going to be back to the same old ways? You're willing to sell weaponry to the EU members, so the European members of NATO, and they give it to Ukraine, but there won't be any extra funding or any extra direct military hardware given to Ukraine to fight that Russian invasion?
I think the problem with President Trump's statements on Russia and Ukraine these days are they are so inconsistent. He says one thing one day, he flip-flops the next day, and then he's back the next day. It does seem, Julian, and it concerns me, that it's whoever talks to him last becomes what comes out of his mouth. And we prefer in international affairs some degree of stability, some degree of predictability. And some say, oh, well, he's doing this because being unpredictable is the way he negotiates. Ukraine can't take that territory back. They don't have the manpower, they don't have the people, they don't have the weapons to even take back, much less stop the incursions that Russia is continuing. Who is going to take back that territory in Crimea and in the Donbass? Are British troops ready to go in? Are they willing to sacrifice their lives?
The Ukrainians have been very clear that they don't expect anyone else to spill their blood, but they do have the manpower. But what they need is more of the armaments. They need some of that high-tech equipment that America has. They need the funding to do it.
When Poland opened their borders a few weeks ago, 11,000 military-aged men flew, and they're now conscripting people who are above the age of 60. They're going lower with their ages. They do not have the manpower to fight it. There were just exchanges of dead bodies, and there were 1,000 Ukrainian bodies returned. There were 24 Russians. If they want to fight till the last
that's
Ukrainian,
very unusual.
they can do that.
Far more Russians have died. Far more Russian casualties than there have been.
Says the Ukrainian propaganda.
No,
says
even according to internal Russian documents that have been leaked. For goodness sake, Steve Gill. For goodness sake.
And the millions of Ukrainians, according to the leaks from the Ukrainian documents.
Millions of Ukrainians have not been killed. Not even a million have been killed.
It's the same leaks that have revealed that.
No, they haven't. No. Donald Trump, I guess he's whittled on about this. This is untrue as well. When we talk about over 1 million casualties, that includes people who've been wounded. The number of deaths on the Russian side is far greater.
It's just, again, the propaganda of Ukraine. Julia, these are the same people that told us a ghost of Kiev was shooting down 12 Russian aircraft in one day. That was a lie. You cannot believe the propaganda that comes from either side.
I don't believe anyone's propaganda. There are people who are providing proper analysis, who are independent sources, who are able to put this stuff together. Steve, we're going to leave it there only because time is against us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Steve Gill, former advisor to Clinton and Bush administrations. Well, many Americans, it's interesting, who are just... I do not understand why America doesn't get how significant the attack on Ukraine is and how that needs to be fought. It blows my mind still.
I think it's because it is so incredibly far away from them that they just don't get it.
Well, so's Taiwan, and they're gonna face that threat next.
Oh, they've got good history in that area, don't they, in that region? But I think they just don't understand Ukraine. They don't understand the threat of Russia into Europe like we do.
Yeah. What do you make of the Sadiq? Go back to Sadiq Khan, because actually we literally just got to get a clip of what Sadiq Khan had to say about Donald Trump's attack on him, and this is what Sadiq Khan has had to say today about Donald Trump.
What it is about this Muslim mayor who leads a liberal, multicultural, progressive, successful city that means I appear to be living rent-free inside Donald Trump's head. President Trump has shown he is racist, he is sexist, he is misogynistic, and he's Islamophobic.
I can't go over that. If you were watching that's Sadiq Khan, it's a Paul clip sitting on a bus. I don't know what he's doing on a bus. He has a chauffeur-driven car all the time because apparently he reckons he's got lots of threats to his safety. And I believe that there would be. But again, I don't know why he's suddenly on a bus all of a sudden, because he definitely doesn't travel by public transport most of the time.
He doesn't. He was on the top deck, probably at the front, pretending to be the bus driver.
Probably on an empty, on a booster seat. Sorry, we're being terrible. But He's hit back. Again, I think it's all rather demeaning to both men.
It is.
I think it's demeaning to America when Donald Trump has attacks on him like that. I don't think it's Donald Trump's business to be attacking this man. I think he'd be much better just totally ignoring him. And if he literally said, I don't know, he pretended not to know Peter Manson, he's met him, I don't know who he is, I don't know who you're talking about, that would genuinely would hurt Sadiq Khan more. Sadiq Khan's like, and he loves it and he plays the victim and everything. But, you know, he's saying, look, you know, what is it about wondering about this Muslim mayor? This is now... Let's have a debate about whether or not Sadiq Khan is a good mayor or not of London. I would say he is not. He keeps getting re-elected. We have democratic elections. That's the deal. Yeah. I voted for him first time round, mainly because the Tories ran a racist campaign, and I will not vote for any campaign that is racist. I will not do it. Also, it was Zach Goldsmith, who's just a little. No, I'm sorry, some little rich kid, Green. No, thank you. Not voting for you either on that. There were two good reasons to vote for Sadiq that time. So I haven't got any issue with the colour of his skin or his religion. Don't care. Not interested. He is, however, a terrible mayor. But why do we even have to bring in anything to do with his skin colour or his religion anyway?
You shouldn't.
Why is it relevant?
It isn't relevant. You have to look at, is that person doing a good job? The answer to that is no. Unless
those things are relevant to it. I mean, I do think he's a bit obsessed with diversity and multiculturalism in a way that, frankly, the rest of us would rather you just didn't care about that and you just got on with the job.
But that isn't building houses and getting the tube and bus system working, is it?
Yeah,
that
how about diversity in building houses and getting the buses working and dealing with crime?
Yeah, it doesn't fit into it, so you can't shoehorn that in. So I think anything to do with ethnicity, and even if he was a woman, it wouldn't have anything to do with gender either.
No.
If that person is no good, you should be able to tell them that.
Yeah, exactly. Without it being,
exactly.
The only thing we've been on this show is sizist.
Yes, we have.
That's
we have to hold our hands
That's probably
up,
not allowed either. Feel free to send your complaints in. But anyway, 12:24 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. Up next, we're going to be talking about one of the other things that Donald Trump had to say, which was about net zero ruining our country. It was basically a suicidal mission by European countries to push net zero. And he's right about that as well. We'll talk to Harry Wilkinson from the Global Warming Policy Foundation about that up next.
Taking all those gifts from Lord Ali, of course, and then we've seen scandal after scandal, as you say. Even recently, Angela Rayner, which we exposed her wrongdoing, Peter Mandelson with his Epstein relationship, and now we're seeing this donation scandal, and it is a scandal. You cannot take donations from sources without declaring them to the Electoral Commission and then to the parliamentary authorities. This is wrong. It is clear what has happened. It needs to be investigated, and if found guilty, sanctions imposed.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. 12:28 is the time. Let's talk to Harry Wilkinson right now. He's head of policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation about what Donald Trump, the leader of the free world, had to say at the UN in his epic speech yesterday, slamming the UK's and indeed Europe's net zero push for windmills and solar panels and saying Labour is wasting tremendous North Sea oil and blighting our countryside. Good afternoon to you, Harry.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. Well, I mean, you know, music to our ears. I mean, he talked about this as Europe committing suicide when it comes to net zero. And he's quite right economically, isn't he?
Well, there were audible gasps in the room
when
Trump started talking about climate change. There is that huge disconnect between Donald Trump and the representatives of all the different countries that we saw on display. You know, Trump actually said that climate change itself was the greatest con job we've ever seen. Now, I actually think trust in science is really important.
Yeah.
And I think it would be very easy just to say, oh, Trump, he's denying the science, you know, that's an absurdly irresponsible thing to do. However, that would only be one side of the story.
Yep.
And what we have seen is an enormous amount of exaggeration, an enormous amount of politicization.
The catastrophizing, the crisis. I mean, the IPCC and their actual bodies of their reports, as opposed to the press release and what, you know, a statement someone will make on the UN floor. They have never said it's a catastrophe or a crisis, have they?
No, I mean, if you look in the details of the scientific part of the IPCC assessment report,
which none of these people
find
do,
there's low confidence in trends in hurricanes, droughts, flooding, all types of natural disaster. So, you know, there is this huge gap between the science and how it's presented by our politicians who have an agenda to introduce all sorts of restrictions on our lives and make us poorer. Trump, one of the things he pointed to was the fact that we're ignoring this massive resource of the North Sea that is, you know, right on our doorstep here in the UK. It could deliver us billions. The boss of INEOS has actually said it would cost us £44 billion what Labour has done to close off new oil and gas licenses in the North Sea.
That's insane.
Saying they have to raise taxes, but they're denying us the wealth that is right on our doorstep.
Of selling us oil. I mean, this is the ironic thing, that all of these people who gasped at the UN General Assembly yesterday, they're all busily importing oil and gas from America, who are fracking and drill as much as they can, and have now become the world's biggest exporter of natural gas and of oil. I mean, the hypocrisy is so blatant on the part of all these countries' representatives.
Like with so many things that Trump says, there is a kernel of truth in what he says, even if superficially it doesn't sound correct. And in this case, it is an enormous scam, because people are being asked to make totally unnecessary changes. We are labouring under the highest energy costs in the developed world here in the UK. That is causing enormous pain and suffering. And it's not even solving climate change. This is
funny that.
Who wants to copy the UK and the rest of Europe when we're stagnating, we're not growing?
And the powerhouse of Europe,
getting really frustrated.
And the powerhouse of Europe, Germany. I mean, Germany is losing their manufacturing base, the thing that has basically driven the powerhouse of the European Union for the last 50 years. And that's all leaving because no one can afford to run a factory in Germany anymore. I mean, when he talks about this being suicide, do you think anyone's going to wake up to that, though? Do you think having, I mean, you know, I thought one of the reasons why I would have voted for Donald Trump last November would have been because of his sanity on net zero, because watching people in Europe watching America kind of carry on booming because of these cheap and plentiful energy and the use of fossil fuels and the selling of it and the balance of trade on all of that and everything, that we would go, but actually watching, I mean, even under Biden, when they talked a good game, they were still drilling, they were still selling the oil, they're still relying on the oil. I mean, but we are committing economic suicide, and that's also military security suicide as well, by not being able to have cheap and plentiful and reliable energy.
Well, net zero is economic suicide. People are waking up to that fact. You know, when people are polled about net zero, they often say they support the principle. And of course, I support the principle. Other things being equal, we want to see lower emissions. But the government has to take into account the importance of energy prices being low, of having reliable, secure energy. These things matter as well.
Yeah.
And Optus Energy's polling found that 71% of people who support net zero say that their support would evaporate if energy prices continued to rise. So that's
and they will.
Additional.
And they will. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Again, I've always said this, all these policies, none of them actually survive any contact with reality, and they don't in any of these countries. Harry Wilkinson, keep up the great work at the Global Warming Policy Foundation. Claire Pearsall?
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting, isn't it? I like what he said, that all of these green people just want to introduce restrictions onto our lives.
So much of this. And again, by the way, back to Sadiq Khan. One of the things he signed up to this, is it 2020 cities or something?
Yeah.
Where basically, the whole idea is to restrict us. All these rules, like places like City of Oxford, where, you're going to have restrictions and have cameras on you, and you're allowed to drive into a certain part of the zone for 20 times a year. So, frankly, sod off. Do one. I mean, seriously, I'll drive wherever I sodding well want it. It is just, they really do. They are desperate to control us and to make our lives smaller. But by the way, they will all carry on getting business class flights on the taxpayer. Trust my word. Let's go to a quick call. In fact, it involves Sadiq Khan, very much in the news today. Miguel is in London. Miguel, we were having a little bit of a row earlier with a guest about crime in London and crime levels are going down. It's not what anyone in London thinks. It's actually not what the stats say either. What do you want to say?
Hi, Julia. Yeah. Stats. Well, people don't report crime anymore.
No. And if you've not got contents insurance where you're going to get the money back, what's the point?
Yeah. So on my road, we've got about 140 houses. During COVID, we got into a group chat on WhatsApp. So we're always talking to each other. We get each other saying, "Oh, my car got broken into the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, this and that happened." But no one's reporting it to the police. People don't report to the police because the police don't do anything.
But don't they even want to get their crime number? Just so you can say to the insurance company, I've reported it to the police. Here's my crime number.
Well, a friend of my son, 4-year-old son, he got robbed at knife point in the high street.
Oh, my God.
About 6 months ago.
That's terrifying.
They didn't report it. So that's another bit of crime that's gone past. So, so you got Sebastian on saying, but it's all the stats. The stats are when people report things. People don't report it because they're fed up because nothing happens. Yeah. I spoke to you about a year ago, and I told you when I got run over by a scooter, and now I've got back injury for life. Now, the police came, but they can't solve crime.
No
one reports it.
They don't follow through. No.
And then now with Sadiq, now I think he's a sleeper. It's a sleeper cell. If you wanted to destroy a country, you would destroy it from within.
Who's he a sleeper cell for?
Pardon?
Who's he asleep?
I have no idea. But if you wanted to destroy something, you would go to the top and then destroy it from the top downwards. And
I think we're into conspiracy territory here.
You look at Susan Hall when she asks questions and he doesn't answer the questions.
Oh, it's so arrogant. It's so rude.
Absolutely.
It's so disrespectful to Londoners who expect those questions to be answered. I'm going to have to leave it there only because I've got my next guest is sitting there. I can see him on screen waiting to talk to us. So thank you very much indeed for that. Going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking about the man who came out with a bread knife, said, "I'm going to kill you," to a protester outside the Turkish consulate, burning the Quran, repeatedly on camera, slashing at him, then kicking him on the ground. Yesterday he got sentenced. How many years behind bars do you think he got? How many do you think? 0. Not 1 day behind bars. It's a good thing he didn't write a tweet because he'd have been gone for 20 years, wouldn't he? We'll talk about that with Sam Armstrong from the Free Speech Union up next. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home and Common Sense. 12:38 is the time. Let's talk to Sam Armstrong now. He's a consultant at the Free Speech Union, a regular friend of the show as well. A very good afternoon to you, Sam.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. Two stories I want to talk to you about. Jimmy Kimmel in a few moments. But first up, let's talk about something happening here. And this is just this extraordinary situation of a man violently attacking another man in the street on camera with a bread knife and not getting a single day behind bars. Tell us about this case and tell us what happened.
Yeah, Musa Kadri is a Muslim man who lives in London, has done for quite a while. He saw late last year another man called Hamit Koskan burning a Quran, as we say he was perfectly entitled to do, outside the Turkish consulate.
We haven't got a blasphemy law yet.
Well, a point that somebody could make to our Prime Minister, perhaps. Yeah. But Musa Kadri saw this, shouted at him, went back into his own house, which was nearby. He got a large bread knife. He came back out of his house over to Hamit Koskan, shouted and swore, saying, "I'm going to kill you," and then repeatedly slashed Hamit Koskan with that knife, punched him, waited until he was on the floor, kicked him again, slashed him again until he was distracted by a couple of bystanders who said, "Stop it, what are you doing?"
Thank goodness.
His motive? This man offended my religion. Now, he could have been charged with perhaps attempted murder, you might think, stabbing someone, slashing at them with a knife.
While saying, "I'm going to kill you." Bit of a clue, I would have thought.
He could have been charged with ABH. Hamit Koskan was severely injured by this attack. He could have been charged with affray. He wasn't. He was charged with common assault. The most
common assault is someone punching someone in a pub.
In fact, you don't even need to punch them. You just need to cause a bit of fear to them. If I square up to you walking down the street on a Saturday night, I should be expected to be charged with common assault. There was a bizarre, inexplicable decision to charge this man with the least serious imaginable offence. Meanwhile, Hamit Koskan, who was prosecuted for burning his own copy of the Quran, well, he was prosecuted by Junior Treasury Counsel, the most senior barristers in the country that are meant to be prosecuting murders at the Old Bailey. No, they prosecuted him for a hate crime. By the way, it was never suggested in court that this man had done it for a hateful reason, even though he said the reason he was doing it was to stand up for his religion and didn't like Hamit Koskan's atheism. This was blatant, observable, undeniable, inescapable two-tier justice. There's no other word for it. No. And that's even before you get to the fact that Lucy Connolly spent over a year in prison for an ill-judged but swiftly deleted tweet. Even before you get to those kind of imbalances, the treatment of these two men tells you everything you need to know about the way that the British state operates.
Exactly. So even in the one incident, the idea that someone burning their own copy of a book, whatever book it is, I don't want people to burn any books, least of all someone else's religious text, but he was someone I think he was from Turkey, wasn't he, Koskan? He's actually from Turkey himself. He's got every right to do a political protest outside the embassy. That is literally one of the most fundamental rights we've got in this country. And the idea that a man... And he went off to get the knife. He went on, there was clear intent. It is absolutely extraordinary. Again, the choice of charges and the sentencing is so clear-cut, and we are constantly told there isn't two-tier justice. But what on earth would make a judge think, and we do see case after case after case after case of people who commit crimes, blatant, obvious crimes. There's no he said, she said. It's on camera. If those watching on YouTube, we've been able to see those images. You can go back and have a look on our YouTube page to see them. It's on camera. It is blatantly obvious what happens. It is a miracle that someone didn't die. It is an absolute miracle. And the idea that this man doesn't serve a day behind bars can be nothing other than political, because there's no other reason why a judge would allow that, surely.
Well, unless, I don't think this possibly was the intention, but it's certainly the effect that there is a message being sent to people that if you are a Muslim and you are offended by somebody attacking, denigrating, in some way disrespecting your religion, you can premeditatedly go and get a knife, threaten to stab someone, attack them, and you won't spend a day in prison.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't feel safe on the streets of this country.
If that is the case, but especially again, that doesn't seem to be the case for any other religion or anyone else. And we have got, the defence by the Prime Minister at PMQ some months ago, the idea of there being a blasphemy law. We've had as Donald Trump is pointing out, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, defending Sharia law as an alternative law in our land. We're constantly told diversity, but at the end of the day, we've only got one law in the land. The law does not make it an offence to commit blasphemy. It's not an offence, but it absolutely does seem to think that there is an offence of viciously attacking someone with a knife because you don't agree with something they've said. I would have thought that was pretty darn clear cut for anyone.
Yeah, and I just don't think that anybody doubts for a minute that if the shoe was on the other foot, so to speak, and if this was a far-right individual that picked up a knife and went up to a pro-Muslim stand in a town centre and repeatedly stabbed at them, slashed at them with a knife he'd brought to the scene especially, shouting, "I'm going to kill you," does anybody in this country, come on.
The late Charlie Kirk, prove me wrong. Can I ask you also about that? Jimmy Kimmel, the late-night chat show host on ABC yesterday, he returned after his cancellation. Of course, on the left, it's never a cancellation. It's always just a temporary removal from the channel. And he returned to his show last night, although not all the affiliates agreed to carry his show. And he addressed his comments that he made about Charlie Kirk. Now, you're a free speech union and you're an absolutist on free speech. I'm not an absolutist on this. It seems to me very, very clear it was a contractual matter for him, why he was taken off air. There were 400 odd of the great and the good, the virtue singer, the Jennifer Aniston, the Robert De Niro's and all that. They signed a letter saying, this is an attack on freedom of speech. They've never cared about anyone they disagree with freedom of speech, never worried about people being cancelled, comedians, actors, singers saying, not entirely sure that men dressing up as women are women. Oh no, quite happy for them to lose their careers, not a problem. Jimmy Kimmel went on television a week ago, just after Charlie Kirk had been killed, and basically told a lie and claimed that the motivation of the alleged killer was that he was MAGA and he was motivated by MAGA. That was the lie. It wasn't the jokes about Donald Trump that got him taken off air. Do you think this is a free speech victory or not?
Well, look, first and foremost, Jimmy Kimmel is on a regulated television platform, and you are not permitted to lie on non-cable television in America. And he did say, and by the way, he didn't apologise for it last night. However,
he said it was about a joke he made, that Donald Trump can't take a joke. That wasn't why he was taken off air.
No, that was in some ways another lie. However, I would warn our friends on the right, anywhere they are, that free speech restrictions are like poison gas. They're an excellent weapon when you're in charge, but when the wind changes, you're going to come to regret them because they're going to blow right over you. And look, there is going to come a time when the Democrats run America again. It's a political reality. And I would warn our Republican friends that if you go down this line of allowing the chair of the FCC, which is a political appointment over there, to kind of bully people off the television you don't like, and there was a bit of that there. Ted Cruz called it mafioso. I think that's right.
Well, he's a Republican senator and Republican governor, and he criticised, he called this out and said it was wrong.
And look, I'm with Ted Cruz on this. I think it was broadly a mistake, but I'm not going to cry particularly over Jimmy Kimmel. As I say, even his apology last night was untrue.
No, indeed. And also, let's face it, this is a man who's repeated. I'm quite happy for him to be back on air. I don't have an issue, but it's between him. Frankly, it's between him and his employers, as far as I'm concerned, whether the ratings are good enough and whether he's worth the millions he's paid. But at the end of the day, this is a man who openly on air and on social media has celebrated every other cancellation when it was with someone he disagreed with. He's not a free speech campaigner. He's just an ego with an overly paid job. But anyway, Sam Armstrong, great to talk to you. Two big issues there, consultant for the Free Speech Union. Always appreciate it. See you again next Monday, I hope. We're going to take a quick break right now, and then we're going to come back and talk about, oh dear, it's all going a bit wrong for Greta Thunberg's Flotilla to Gaza. I know, I'm upset too. This is Talk.
taking all those gifts from Lord Ali, of course, and then we've seen scandal after scandal, as you say, even recently Angela Rayner, which we exposed her wrongdoing, Peter Mandelson with his Epstein relationship, and now we're seeing this donation scandal, and it is a scandal. You cannot take donations from sources without declaring them to the Electoral Commission and then to the parliamentary authorities. This is wrong. It is clear what has happened. It needs to be investigated, and if found guilty, sanctions imposed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show, 12:51. What a rip-roaring show it's been. Claire Bearsall, thank you very much for joining me throughout. Just coming back to you about Greta Thunberg, because I know you and I both feel very strongly about how important it is that Greta Thunberg and all of her men, all of her mates, unwashed as they are, their little tassel jumpers and things, make it all the way to send their aid. They've got, I think, about at least 2.5 boxes, 2.5 bits of Tupperware full of aid for people who are apparently starving to death in Gaza, and they want to take it to Gaza directly. They apparently facing quite a lot of problems. There was the weather, first of all, they had to turn back. Apparently they've all fallen out with each other. There's been a lot of issues there, I know. But also explosions have been heard at the boats. They said they're being targeted by drones. Although last time they said that, actually, it was just them accidentally firing a flare and setting their boat on light. What do you make of this?
I really, really wish that she would give up. I really do.
Everything. Go back to school.
Just go and learn something. Go and have a job. Go and have a shower.
A job? Get a job. It is true. It is true. Although if you are a regular truant, probably a bit harder to get a proper job. But she's making millions, love. She's making millions.
So she makes more than me, and I have to work hard.
And you went to school.
I did. And
just
I like
saying.
soap.
Well, she's very busy on her flotilla right now. They are now currently, I think, stuck in Tunisia, but they are still intent on getting to Gaza. Israel have made it very clear. No, we've got a legal naval blockade. You're not getting in. Well, let's talk about this with journalist Nicole Lampert, who joins us. Very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Julia.
Thanks for joining us. Well, first of all, let's just talk about they've got this issue that they've claimed this time that they've been targeted by drones, and it's meant that they've had to go into port. But last time they would say they were targeted by some sort of weaponry of some sort. But actually, it turned out, and there were videos on the boat that showed that actually someone had fired a flare gun and it came back down on them and they'd set their own boat alight. So what's the truth on this?
Well, it's hard to say. Israel isn't saying anything, but it seems like they were targeted with ABBA music. Their communication system was hijacked and ABBA songs were played.
I mean, to be fair, that would turn you back.
And it seems that there is some sort of projectile or noise of projectile that has reached their boats. It's hard to know whether they were actually attacked. I don't think they would have been attacked by proper drones, but maybe this is Israel's way of saying, we've given you a chance. Israel has offered to take the food and give it to the people of Gaza. It said, come to Israel and drop it at
There's literally a port just north of Gaza. You can drop it off. Other aid has been dropped off there, and we will take it in.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Israel this is a publicity stunt, isn't it?
No, Nicole, what a terrible... You mean they don't actually care about the people of Gaza? Exactly. And they actually just want to... what a terrible thing to say. I'm ashamed of you.
So they are determined to try and force a fight with Israel. So Israel is doing what it can to say, just go away. Last time they managed to have quite a bit of fun with Greta by taking a photo of her taking a sandwich, a challah sandwich. So this time, and she still claimed that she'd been kidnapped, utilising this victimhood language.
Yeah. And also, they're all very green, but they all drop their phones in the ocean on camera as well. No, we also found out there have been massive big fallouts. The Mail are calling it rather wonderfully woke on woke fury, which is really very true. So basically, you've got a load of pro-Palestinian activists. And by the way, we need to remember that the people organising these flotillas have very, 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 very strong links to Hamas, which is a terrorist organisation. But, you know, by all means, let's all get on that flotilla. I mean, genuinely, even, you know, the company that leases the boats to them, there's no question at all of who is benefiting from this. It ain't the ordinary Gals and civilians. Apparently they're falling out because a bunch of people have now decided they're going to leave this boat because there are, get this right, LGBTQ plus activists on, Tunisian queer activists. I've never known what the queer thing actually means, but just other than you've got blue hair and you're not very attractive. But they're very angry because they're saying, well, that isn't actually in alignment with our sort of Muslim beliefs and our own values. I mean, this is hilarious. You couldn't make this stuff up.
Well, what's quite interesting is you've got this omnicore, is what it's called, which is the only ideological glue pulling them together is anti-Zionism / anti-Semitism. Yeah. We've seen exactly the same with the Our Party, Your Party, whatever it's called, the Sultana Corbyn element. Yeah. In that you have two very different ideas of how to kind of create a revolution. So you've got the progressive activists, all trans rights. The guy that was on board is a militant communist activist. And then you've got the Muslim groups who are anti-LGBTQ plus. And I think they're quite right in saying that the Palestinian agenda has been completely hijacked.
Well, indeed. And then you've got the eco lot. I mean, basically, they moved from eco to trans, and now it's pro-pal. I mean, it's just a seamless movement to anything that I could wave a flag at or wear a strange outfit for.
Exactly, and it's all about trying to create this revolution for the social activists, for the progressives,
it's basically, as you say, it's anti. I mean, it's definitely anti-West. It's anti. It's anti-Israel. Brackets anti-Semitic. Let's say it like it is. It's all kind of all sort of called up in that because Israel's sort of, you know, the worst case, the worst offender when it comes to colonialism and capitalism in some way, apparently.
Exactly, but really what we're seeing is it's a radicalisation cause. You know, that's what we're seeing in our streets. We're seeing people who wouldn't be able to point where Israel and Gaza and all of that are on a map, or they just kind of know it's the right thing to do. So you've got Queers for Palestine. Well, this is, you know, in Palestine or Palestinian territories. You know what they do to queers? They put them in jail. They torture them because they don't believe in those sort of things.
Or you're thrown off. I mean, you're thrown off a tower. I mean, this is the extraordinary thing. But they've all fallen out. Apparently, also Greta Thunberg no longer in a leadership role because of some of the fallings out. I mean, I think, frankly, the Israelis should just leave them at sea. Don't arrest them. Just leave them there. It's absolutely hilarious, this. I mean, and we all knew it was going to be the case. And again, the left will eat itself eventually. I say just leave them floating. Nicole, thank you for that. Nicole Lampert is a journalist covering this. Claire Pierce, I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. It's brilliant, isn't it?
The fact is they've all fallen out with each other is the most hysterical thing ever. I mean,
those aren't very big boats. I think you'd fall out with the man that you were madly in love with if you were on one of those boats after a bit.
But you can see that they're going to just have the same interests, the same hair colour, the same clothing they're all sharing, and why do this?
Who knew that the hard left, you know, the queer activists would fall out with the extremist political ideology of Islam activists? Who ever knew that those weren't actually, that Queers for Palestine not actually a thing? I know, it's absolutely joy. Keep on floating in your flotilla, Greta. We're loving it. Thank you so much for joining me, Claire, throughout the show. Thank you for all your calls. I'm sorry we didn't get as many on air as we would like to. Ian Collins is here now. Tell us what's on his show. I don't know, maybe you want to go and join the flotilla?
I mean, whatever happens to Greta, I mean, at least she's got her looks. I think that's...
No, come on, no.
Have you not seen that rocking new haircut?
She looks like Owen Jones in a weird...
Now you're at it.
Genuinely, I don't understand why people... It always comes down to women. I think you can criticise Greta for every single thing she says and every single thing she does.
Have you not seen Andy Burnham's glasses?
With that said, we do have a go at Sadiq Khan for being very
But here's the thing, OK? I mean, the point you just made, how do they not know this is coming around the corner?